Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome to the next piece of episode 200. I was initially going to try to continue reading it as if nothing had changed, but let's not pretend I already had this content ready, because that's just a lie. So, in this episode, I'm pretty sure we're starting with Anomalous Hard Drive, and I'm going to see how many more entries I can fit in here before it becomes 2 hours long again. So, I believe we're starting with Anomalous Hard Drive. There's the... What is this? Is this Castlevania? Or is this something else? It's definitely something else. You stop that. So, SCP-976, it's safe. 976 is attached to an isolated research computer at site someplace. All data must be archived for analysis from automated backups made every 24 hours. Research on data extracted requires level 2 clearance. It must not be installed in any terminal with a live connection to site blank intranet or to any outside internet connection. Direct access to 976 for purposes other than maintenance requires prior approval from at least 2 level 3 personnel. Description: it appears to be a Western Digital blank model hard drive with an indicated capacity of 32 gigs. It's not a very useful hard drive, is it? The outside casing is identical to a hard drive of the indicated model and has a standard parallel ATA 100 interface. I don't know what that means. It is unusually heavy and all attempts to disassemble from the outside have failed thus far. Have they tried hammers? That's not disassembling, so it might work. 976 was found in a Foundation Research Terminal computer blankety-blank at site someplace during a mandatory security pass for ensuring the destruction of sensitive data prior to the disposal of electronic equipment. Where did I get the word management from? Its anomalous properties were discovered when technicians noted that its installation was in violation of standard equipment configuration guidelines and was immediately taken into containment when the device was accessed and the data within analyzed. How it ended up inside the terminal is unknown at this time. How did they get it out of the terminal if they can't disassemble it? When connected to a standard PC and activated, it operates normally but with an abnormally high-pitched hum that does not appear to match any known hard drive model. When read using a specially designed interface, it appears to contain a 32GB slice of a larger data repository, currently estimated at exceeding blank 100 terabytes in size. This slice changes position every 24 hours at exactly 11:53 a.m., which is an hour and 57 minutes from now, as of this recording, thus necessitating all data on 976 to be downloaded daily for analysis. From ongoing analysis of over blank 1,000 slices of data extracted from 976, the following file fragments have been reconstructed. Several fragments of news reports, including images and partial videos. These news items are all dated in the past, but do not match any news reports in Foundation archives. Archives documenting the use of expunged and expunged technologies that have not been invented or were never pursued in modern science. Containment procedures and experiment logs for SCP blank, an object that was destroyed during acquisition and never contained. Detailed experiment logs for SCP blank, which were never authorized due to the danger involved in said experiment proposals. Detailed description for SCP blank and blank, objects that don't exist, and a record of assets and SCP objects stored at site blank, which does not exist. All data recovered from 976 matches standard Foundation data formats, but otherwise do not seem to correspond to data found in the archives. It is currently theorized that 976 may be a window into a Foundation archive from an alternate timeline or existence. Analysis into data recovered from the 976 is ongoing. Addendum 1. On blankety-blank 2000-something, Dr. Blank and Blank were killed while accessing data that appears to have contained a memetic kill agent similar to data expunged. Increased security has been requested for 976 data, and automated data analysis must be used before opening unknown files. Did it not occur to them that that might happen? It's a weird rotating hard drive full of Foundation secrets, and they did not once think that it might have a killer cognito hazard in it. Well, that's them, I guess. The security station is Euclid and full of televisions. Access to 977 has been restricted on the basis of ongoing asbestos removal and renovation. The site is to be secured by guards in standard blank security company cover uniforms with concealment armament. No fewer than 3 Foundation staff members are to be present on site at any time while research is being conducted. Personnel entering or leaving the building are required to don breathing masks and standard safety clothing to prevent suspicion. The security cameras already existent in the building have been modified to link to SCP Foundation servers. Footage is automatically backed up every 2 hours, both to local hard drives and to offsite storage. Any developments are to be reported to Site Overseer Dr. Somebody. Access to video recordings, research, and logs may be granted by personnel with level 4 security clearance or higher. Addendum. Following Incident I-1, all staff must be escorted by at least one other staff member or member of security personnel at all times while on the site. Failure to follow these procedures will result in reprimands, including but not limited to demotion of security level, loss of privileges, and denial of leave. So if you don't listen to us, you don't get vacation. Oh no! At least it wasn't termination like it usually is. Object class has been upgraded to Euclid. 977 is a warehouse located in an industrial district in blank blank blank. The warehouse was brought to the Foundation's attention after it was declared abandoned in something, possibly 19-something, and reports of its unusual properties intercepted. The Foundation subsequently purchased the building, designating its site blank, and these reports were suppressed. Records state that the warehouse was constructed in blank and, prior to being purchased by the company, was owned by several companies including Redacted, spanning a period of blank years. However, numerous contradictions in the documentation recovered on the lease suggest that these operations were not functioning companies and may have been cover operations for as yet unidentified groups or individuals. 977 is outwardly unremarkable and, aside from Foundation equipment and the security station, currently empty. Along with a single open storage space typical of a warehouse, the structure contains a number of white irregular rooms and corridors, many of which are sunk below street level at varying depths and are all characterized by unusual plateaus, varying ceiling heights, and raised platforms. The security station can be accessed via a stairwell next to Docking Bay C. The monitors are divided into two groups of 18 designated Group 1 and 2. All monitors have black and white displays and do not receive sound. Group 1 receives signals from an unidentified source showing numerous unconscious persons visible from the shoulders upwards wearing identical unisex hospital gowns. These images cycle at 8-minute intervals with a new image/subject replacing the previous one. A cross-reference of these images has identified a total of redacted unique faces at last count. Group 2 is receiving images of rooms and hallways that match the characteristics of the white rooms contained within the complex. However, while some of these images are verifiably originating from rooms within the warehouse itself, several others do not match the layout of any known room. The last 3 monitors in Group 2 are currently not receiving any signal. The station also features a console with a text-based command input running a unique operating system, the functionality and interface of which are yet to be fully determined. Investigations into the console's operation and the source of the unknown images are ongoing. And here's a research log. Log A1. Basic control of the Group 2 cameras was established by means of the command console, including rotation and zoom. Investigation of 7 of the 8 cameras revealed nothing. However, a previously unseen figure was observed slumped against a distant wall of the complex, observed by cameras 2-6. So I guess that's the 6th camera in Group 2. This hallway is not known to be part of the existing complex. The figure appears to be a dark-skinned male wearing a hospital gown similar to those worn by subjects viewed on the Group 1 monitors, though distance and image quality has hampered further investigation. A5. Limited interaction with the cameras transmitting to the Group 1 cameras was achieved. Catheters are observed protruding from the veins in each subject's right arm. However, the apparatus to which these are connected cannot be observed from this angle. A6. Movement is observed on monitor 211, observing a hallway. A figure was observed to walk slowly across the far end of the corridor around a corner, although image quality is too low for detailed observation. No other movements were recorded on this date. A8. Interaction with subjects observed through Group 1 monitors was achieved. A random identification key was entered in the command console, causing an unidentified white male to be displayed on all Group 1 monitors. After a series of subsequent commands, the subject was awakened from unconsciousness. The following is a log of the subject's activity in the hours following the awakening. 17:13, so I think this is 5:13 in the afternoon. Subject awakens slowly. After several minutes, he raises himself from the bed with difficulty, suffering from a muscle atrophy or lingering effects of sedatives. They then leave the field of vision of the bed camera. Movements of the subject for the next 28 minutes are unknown. At 5:54, the subject appears in a hallway displayed on monitor 211, approaching the camera. Hallway is not known to be part of the existing complex. Subject is walking slowly with hunched shoulders and observing surroundings, frequently looking over shoulder. While climbing over a plateau in the center of the hallway, subject suddenly reacts to some unknown stimulus and looks over his shoulder for several seconds, breathing heavily, then resumes climbing slowly. After 2 minutes, the subject passes out of the field of vision once again. Subject does not seem to react to the presence of the camera. Movements for the next 17 minutes are unknown. Subject appears on monitor 26, moving away from the camera. After several paces, they see the previously observed body slumped against the wall at the far end of the corridor. Subject stops abruptly and then turns back towards the camera hurriedly. Movement for the next hour and 39 minutes are unknown. Subject appears on monitor 2-3, moving towards the camera, breathing heavily but not observably injured. While climbing over a series of small steps, they trip and fall, and remain on the ground for the following 8 minutes before unsteadily rising to their feet. Subject then proceeds for another several paces before sitting once again, in a state of visible distress, remaining there for the following 23 minutes. Subject moves from the stair into a seated position against a neighboring plateau, facing away from the camera, partly out of the camera's field of vision. The breathing has become noticeably heavier. Breathing progressively becomes shallower, taking in large breaths. Body begins to convulse for a period of 34 minutes. Movement cease, assumed to cease. Next day, at some point, some amount of days later, subject's skin appears to be growing darker or decaying at an accelerated rate. A number of small, dark growths are observed protruding from the subject's right palm. Growths have spread across the body, extremities, and face, obscuring features. Growths appear as a large number of small semi-rigid filaments. It is unknown whether these growths are organic or inorganic. The body is entirely covered by growth. A14. Function to change the camera transmitting to individual Group 2 monitors by means of a console was determined. Logs are now to be kept of unique camera viewpoints and their corresponding identification keys. A17. A systematic examination of Group 2 identification keys revealed a previously unknown camera concealed within the security station itself. The camera tracked the movements of Dr. Blank independently for several minutes after the cover was removed by Dr. Blank, but has since become inactive. The corresponding identification key will also no longer access this camera. Addendum. Discoveries detailed in A17 along with Incident I-1 have necessitated the upgrade of 977 from safe to Euclid. Please refer to containment procedures for changed security precautions commencing blankety blank blank. Incident log I-1. Incident 977 I-1 occurred during a routine inspection of 977's site by Dr. Blank, who was alone on site against Foundation regulations. The incident occurred at 22:04 hours, so was that like 10:04? During an inspection of the site's rear corridors. At this time, Dr. Blank departed from procedure by taking a left at the end of the hallway instead of a right. Questioning suggests that this was a mistake and not deliberate, possible as a result of fatigue. Personnel taking this route are expected to emerge in the hallway observed by monitor 2-3, though following this, Dr. Blank was not observed on any active monitor for the next 4 hours. At 2:21 in the morning, he's briefly seen in an agitated state moving past the far end of the corridor observed on monitor 211, and is not seen again for another 6 hours. At approximately 8:30 in the morning, Dr. Blank and Dr. Blank arrived at the site expecting to meet Dr. Blank, and the alarm was raised for 15 minutes later when he could not be located. A search operation was launched, concluding at 9:04 in the morning when Dr. Blank's cries were heard. He was located near the corridor of his initial disappearance, and was subsequently brought into Site Blank for questioning. Dr. Blank reported being unaware of having left the known parts of the site for several minutes after having taken a wrong turn. The doctor claims to have been unable to recognize any landmarks when attempting to retrace steps and was unable to give an accurate estimate of length of time spent searching for a way back to the known site. During this period, Dr. Blank recounted experiencing periods of intense paranoia, as well as making multiple attempts to contact the Foundation by means of security cameras present in every room. As these cameras were not manned at this time, this cannot be corroborated by Foundation recordings, although Dr. Blank stated that the cameras did track his movements. Although Dr. Blank described the corridors as silent, he also reported several incidents of believing to have heard faint or distant sounds, or observing changes in room layout. These may, however, have been a result of fatigue or paranoia. Air pressure also reportedly changed at several irregular intervals. After an unknown amount of time, Dr. Blank reported coming across a distinctive corridor leading to what was described as a room very similar to the security station used to monitor 977, although otherwise bare. The two stations reportedly shared a similar setup, both with two distinct groups of monitors viewing unconscious subjects and corridors. However, during Dr. Blank's examination of the new station, a monitor observing what appeared to be the security station used by Foundation staff was described in place of where one of the three darkened monitors would be in the latter. After a period of exploration, Dr. Blank reported then observing a dark figure appearing on one of the station monitors, walking slowly. After several minutes of observation, the doctor then reported seeing several black figures appear on different monitors, when one of which was recognized as having been recently passed by Dr. Blank. He reportedly fled the room in a state of panic. After an extended period, Dr. Blank recounted eventually coming to a halt in a corridor, falling to the ground out of exhaustion. The doctor recalled having fallen asleep in a seated position despite apparently having intended to continue his exploration, having been awoken by the shouts of the approaching search party. The doctor was subsequently retrieved, during which time he repeatedly expressed disorientation and claimed to have fallen asleep in a different hallway. Dr. Blank later retracted his statement, citing uncertainty. A medical checkup revealed Dr. Blank was physically unharmed by this experience beyond fatigue. The doctor was reprimanded for neglecting Foundation procedure, and his security clearance has been downgraded following the incident, with a review pending in 6 months. And this was last edited July 24th, 2 years ago. Next up is the Desire camera. I was fully expecting it to be Keter. Cell phone, what is wrong with you? Shut up! I could have sworn I told you to shut up. Okay. 978 is to be kept in a security locker HJ12 at Site 17, and only to be removed or handled by personnel with level 2 security clearance or higher. Testing parties may request extra film and printing paper at their leisure. 978 is not to be used for blackmail, entertainment, or personal reasons. This means you... 05 blank. All photographs produced by 978 are to be cataloged along with full testing description. Requests to destroy photographs may be processed by level 4 security clearance or higher personnel at the discretion of testing party. Description: SCP-978 appears to be a standard chrome and black Polaroid 1 instant camera with no distinctive identifying marks or damage. It operates the same as a standard camera and shows no anomalous behavior besides the photographs it produces. When a subject is pictured with 978, or the photograph that develops shows not what the subject was doing at the time of the photo, but rather what the subject wanted to be doing. This effect appears to be, for the most part, random, sometimes showing drastic changes in deeply suppressed desires, or simple changes and alterations to the subject or their surroundings. 978 appears to be capable of expressing the desires of both humans and other creatures, see testing log, and appears to convey the simplest desires the easiest. Should two subjects with contrasting desires both be photographed together, the subject's desires appear to mix, see testing log for additional information. Addendum: subjects are allowed to request photographs of themselves. Remember, people, just because some of the photos show distasteful things doesn't mean that you're going to do them. Okay. Researcher Assistant James, smile for the camera, neutral pose. Subject shown looking much more tired and unprofessional, drinking from a flask. Research Assistant blank blank, smiling for the camera, neutral pose, shown in casual clothes as if heading out for the night. Subject admits that she wishes to go home. Research Assistant blank blank, smile for the camera, neutral pose. Data expunged. Research Assistant is placed on temporary psychiatric leave. Dr. blank blank, smiling for the camera, neutral pose, shown wearing a different tie. Smile for the camera, neutral pose. Data expunged. Doctor expresses extreme embarrassment and apologizes for this. Well, the first round of tests wasn't so bad, except for those two. Let's try this thing on some Class D and other personnel, see if we can't get more unusual results. Subject: several standard white lab mice. All of them are in plain glass tank for photographing. All of them are pictured as eating, mating, or both. A single zebra finch, standard lab animal, sitting in cage observing photographer. Result: an open cage with the zebra finch flying off at the edge of the photo, only a wing and a part of the tail visible. A single white lab rat, sitting in the plain glass tank for photographing, is pictured mating with a rabbit, my bad. It's pictured mating with another rabbit. A stray kitten, being held for the picture by Dr. Blank. Data expunged. I would never do that to a kitten! Guard dog, Doberman mix, and handler. Guard dog and handler both posing strictly for photograph. Subjects are pictured as playing a game of fetch. Multiple testing cockroaches. No change. Small spider, clinging to the ceiling. Doctor admits the picture was taken as a last-minute thought when she walked past the spider on her way to the containment locker. Result: a massive hallways encompassing web with a small spider in it. Well, at least we know it works on animals. For more information, see the extended testing logs. I'm going to click that. That is very long. I'm going to bookmark it for SCP stuff. Okay, that brings us to the stoneware rabbit. If it loads. Well, that looks terrifying. Reacting to the camera. It's Euclid. All individuals suspected of being exposed to the stoneware rabbit must be reviewed for changes in psyche. The rabbit itself should be contained in a wire cage approximately 5 meters in length, height, and width. It does not produce waste. There is little need for any bedding. However, it should be given a water dispenser out of 150 milliliters refilled daily to prevent drying out. Also, it is allowed one shelter in its cage, consisting of commercial plastic of any color made for medium to large members of the Leporidae family, normally sold in pet shops for companionship. It is to be monitored with a hidden camera 24 hours a day. Should the behavior change in any way, it is to be logged and reported to a level 3 or higher personnel. SCP-979 is an animate stoneware figurine in the shape of a member of Bunny. It shows subtle differences from traditional members of Bunny, including but not limited to the ability to express emotion through facial changes and posture that is congruent with typical human reactions. I'm going to confirm whether or not it's just rabbit. Yeah. 979 lacks proper anatomy, with its ears and back legs being too long and large, and therefore has extreme difficulty with normal movement. The behavior of 979 shows some sentience, but it generally only reacts to any stimuli with fear and or avoidance. Any other reaction must be reported to level 3 or higher personnel. It emits a high-frequency noise in response to any stimuli. The volume appears proportionate to its level of distress. Extended proximity to 979 causes synesthesia in all senses, typically manifesting after 4 hours and escalating over a variable period of approximately 3 weeks. Exposure to the noise produced by 979 has been shown to increase the rate at which the synesthesia develops. However, recordings have failed to replicate the effect, and as such, the noise is not believed to be the primary cause. The first sense to be affected is typically hearing, although the reason is unknown. Humans exposed to 979 tend to describe a whispering, rustling voice associated with the sensation of touch, and will avoid any physical contact with anything as much as possible. Typically, this first effect appears approximately 10 minutes after exposure. Within 1 week, exposure causes synesthesia in at least 3 senses, although which 3 tends to be dependent on the specific person. A level of psychosis appears to develop at this stage, although whether or not it is from mental disturbance of the synesthesia or something else is unknown. The only recorded personnel, hereby labeled V1, exposed to 979 describe symptoms similar to high anxiety, most notably the recurring thought of an imagined entity almost touching their skin at all times, especially so during nights, in which the exposed personnel reporting a belief of the imagined entity running any number of limbs up and down their body, just above skin contact. After the passing of approximately 2 weeks, synesthesia caused by 979 spreads to all senses, although certain senses appear to be less intrusive than others, depending on the specific patient. In V1, the previous recurring thought of the imagined entity became an obsession, and V1 regularly attempted to attack the imagined entity with apparently little success. All inquiries on the appearance of the imagined entity were unsuccessful. V1 attempted suicide approximately blank times during this period and developed severe insomnia. In addition, they described hallucinations of the aforementioned entity now almost licking their skin, along with other types of contact such as kissing, stroking, and redacted. At no point does V1 describe actually being touched. Within 3 weeks, the synesthesia develops fully in all senses. V1 had extreme difficulty dealing with any kind of sensory information, mind regularly blocking out senses due to overload. V1 displayed a behavior similar to 979 itself and appeared to attempt interaction with hallucinations before falling into a catatonic state. Afterwards, no other progression was shown until a period of 5 weeks, in which the subject was discovered with a large gash in his torso, organs having been pulled out from the body cavity. It is unknown how such a wound came to V1. 979 was found in Blank, Chile. It was featured in an exhibition by an artist under the pseudonym of The Kind Man in the Blank Museum. After news reports of hallucinations and an outbreak of synesthesia, 979 was placed under Foundation custody. Let's see. Good morning. Please identify yourself. Morning already? Well, last time I checked, my name was Blank. Don't you white coat bastards have a record of this shit lying around? The time is exactly 9:07 a.m. Please explain for the recording how last night went. What, you didn't see it? Nothing recorded last night was particularly unusual. However, your behavior... You didn't fucking see it? It was hovering over me the whole damn time! At least redacted things! just barely touching me. I could feel it! When it's not the fucking whispering, it was the colors, the damn smells. Is there a way you can reverse this synthesia bullshit? I've seen you psychopaths do things that make reality shit itself, for Christ's sakes. Please go into further detail of last night's events according to your perception. Note the camera only caught your erratic behavior before Agent Blank was forced to intervene. You gotta be shitting me! With all that fucking technology you couldn't... Please answer the question. What did you see last night? It ain't a seeing thing, Doc! It was a feeling thing. It was like... If I fucking breathed too hard, I'd touch whatever the thing was. It was so damn close. It's watching me and hovering. Could hear it saying something right in my ear. The bastard's fucking with me, he is. I could feel smell. It was like the static of the dust of a TV screen, but the little tingling is going in you right here. Touches his sternum. And it just builds up till you have to take a breath, and I swore on my life I almost felt the bastard's hand tentacle thing. He's on me right now, can't you fucking see it? Grows increasingly agitated and begins noticeably hyperventilating. Oh god, man. I can feel it now. Fuck, make it stop. Make it stop! Begins slamming his face into the side of the interview table, presumably in a suicide attempt. After repeated orders to stop were ignored, Agent Blank administered a sedative and took them back to the observation chamber. End log. Okie dokie, and last for this chunk. Well, I mean, it's not really a chunk, but for the sake of not losing any progress, I'm going to stop recording after 980 and then continue from there. If I edit it right, you won't notice. I don't know why I keep saying it. It's safe, but it also looks extremely uncomfortable. SCP-980 is to be kept in a 3x3x5 meter lead room suspended in the center of a 25 meter cubed containment area at Site Blank. It used to say this room is to have a single glass window aligned with the window to the containment area. The inner window requires replacement every 8 days. Now it says leaded glass is to be used instead, see addendum. The door to this room is to be kept locked at all times that 980 is not under study. Personnel ranking above disposable dudes are not to enter the surrounding containment area due to mental and physical danger. No armed personnel or guards are required near the lift to 980's cell, as it has not shown any means of escaping. In addition, the fall from its containment cell would injure it enough to prevent escape. No feeding or nutrition of any sort is necessary. So it only sounds safe in so much as it'll hurt itself if it tries to get out, and it doesn't even look like it can. SCP-980 is I don't know why I read it out of order, sorry. A featureless humanoid of average height and weight, indeterminate age and gender, smooth gray white skin. That's where the word white came from. 980 does not possess any facial characteristics, sensory organs, or features such as nails or hair. It is injured with relative ease, bleeding a viscous substance that appears similar to white paint. Analysis shows that 980 possesses no internal organs, though it does have a skeletal structure comparable to that of a human. Despite the absence of eyes and ears, 980 appears to display 20/20 vision and slightly above average hearing. Extensive testing has not explained this, though no abnormalities or anything to suggest other methods of sensory capability have been shown. 980 is able to write in English when prompted, though typing is inefficient due to its influence quickly rendering the keys as well as the monitor unresponsive. 980 naturally inflicts a simplification effect on objects and beings within a sphere 8 meters in radius around it. Said effect streamlines the features of objects while removing color, detail, and often function. Animals first lose fur and distinguishing characteristics such as length of limbs and tails, presence of protuberances, etc., while humans develop more average facial features and lose or gain weight and height. This edges towards a rough average of around 1.7 meters tall with a weight of 76 kilograms. This is shortly followed by losing facets of their personality, with interests, habits, and memories commonly lost first. While brief exposure to 980 is not physically harmful, prolonged exposure of organic beings with complex circulatory and respiratory systems commonly results in the simplification and fusion of parts located near one another. No subjects have reported pain from the process itself. A disposable personnel used to test 980's effects was affected on this level after approximately 30 minutes within the containment area, with heart failure occurring almost immediately afterwards. Autopsies showed that the chambers of the subject's heart had been fused together. Physical results tend to be somewhat random, with usually affecting the heart, lungs, arteries, stomach, and intestines, the brain, and the sensory organs. While some cases are not fatal or even harmful in the case of the sensory organs, further exposure causes transformations at a rapid pace. 980 was found at the blank blank apartment complex in blank blank after several hours of exposure to 980 caused deaths and mental harm to nearby civilians, as well as color and shape simplification to said apartment complex and many objects inside. At the time of acquisition, it was wearing heavy winter clothing and a hood. 980 has not responded thus far to inquiries as to how it came to be, though Room 307 seems to have been affected more than the other nearby locations. In addition, the tentative Room 307, blank blank, was unaccounted for among the bodies of the victims. Addendum 1. The standard SCP humanoid uniform issued to 980 shortly after its recovery has remained in close proximity to 980 for the entirety of its containment. The uniform showed steady results of simplification, but was still serviceable until blank blank 2000 something, when a researcher noticed that it had for the most part vanished. A thin cloud was present in 980's containment cell, and the composition of the air was noted to contain 0.blank% more hydrogen. Lead was found to be one of the few substances that is highly resistant to 980's natural effects on its surroundings. As such, the containment cell is constructed entirely of lead, with leaded glass used in its windows. In a recent test, leaded glass showed increased resistance to the effect, requiring replacement every 2 weeks. Incident Report 4. In the case of one disposable dude, 987, physical transformation did not seem to occur. The subject spent 3 hours in the presence of 980 with no abnormal experiences and was suspected immune until prompted to leave, at which point the subject wordlessly refused and continued to sit in the chair with his eyes closed. Subject responded with a silent refusal each time he was prompted until he was threatened. The subject shoved the table to the side and sprung at 980, embracing it. Another threat was issued and subject began sobbing, continuing to keep his mouth and eyes shut. Subject was removed from the containment cell by security, after he clung to 980 and attempted to claw through his own eyelids with the use of his nails. Further study of the properties has been documented in Experiment Log 986. Let's see. It looks like it's not going to actually tell us anything about what the deal was with that, Okay, I guess it is going to say something about it? Subject 7 was treated for abrasions on the face and remained in stable condition for weeks after Incident 4. Though it is suspected that his vision was impaired, the subject has not opened his eyes or mouth since. Testing has shown that while he is physically able to open and presumably use his sensory organs, he consciously chooses not to. He has not responded to sounds or smells of any sort, including a handgun fired nearby. Did not show any surprise, though later tests showed that his ears did sustain significant damage. 980 has been questioned about 7's actions and claims not to know of his intentions. It has little knowledge of its effects on human beings, but found his response unusual. It agreed with the interviewer on the tendency of its victims to react with physical changes rather than behavioral ones in later stages of development. Testing to examine 980's effects on humans has resumed. Facial changes, slight height gain, severe memory loss, vision loss, kidney failure, heart chamber fusion. Severe facial changes, suspected personality changes, slight skin changes, lung and heart simplification. Slight build changes, slight facial changes, memory loss, deafness, stomach, intestine fusion, slight heart chamber fusion, slight liver function loss, blindness. 980 itself has stated that it is not and has never intended to induce such transformations in organic beings and inanimate objects alike. The validity of such statements is unverified, though the fact that similar results are found in all things within a certain distance of 980, regardless of its level of focus or activity, seems to lend some amount of support to its claims. Though there is the possibility of manipulation or deception on the part of 980, it appears probable that the effects themselves are on an entirely different force than 980 and have merely focused around it. Okay. Another person. Build changes, habit loss, suspected personality changes, slight heart chamber fusion, blindness, heart failure. Slight facial and build changes, slight suspected memory loss, heart failure, hearing loss, liver failure, blindness, deafness, severe lung alteration. Subject 20 was the second D-class to show results similar to 7. Though minor facial changes took place, similar behavioral changes were noted and the subject was introduced to 7. Though at first neither appeared to notice the other, after approximately 15 minutes left in containment, 7 began walking towards 20 and stopped inches from his face. Both subjects remained still in this manner for the remaining hour and 45 minutes of the exposure. Build and slight facial changes, personality changes, deafness, lung alteration, kidney failure, fusion of skin over eyes, severe memory and personality loss, liver failure, blindness, heart chamber fusion, slight facial changes, secure personality loss, deafness, fusion of skin over ears, heart chamber fusion. 7 was exposed a second time, albeit separated by a glass pane. Subject acted of his own accord for the first time in weeks to press himself against the glass, seemingly in an attempt to reduce distance between itself and 980. 980 backed away from the subject and sat against the far wall. 7 was wheeled towards 980 to ensure further changes would have the opportunity to occur. 980's body language displayed fear. Severe build changes, personality changes, slight memory loss, blindness, deafness, fusion of skin over ears, lung alteration. Severe build facial changes, slight personality changes, and memory loss, fusion over skin of eyes, deafness, blindness, muteness, kidney failure, heart chamber fusion. Build changes, severe facial changes, severe personality loss, blindness, fusion of skin over eyes, fusion of skin over ears, muteness, liver failure, stomach and intestinal fusion, deafness, fusion of skin over nose, and fusion of heart chambers. 7 showed physical changes during its second exposure. Subject experienced hair loss and skin formation of smooth surfaces over its unused sensory organs. 7 has displayed remarkable improvement in navigation and self-awareness. Let's see, 27. Severe build changes, facial changes, severe personality, memory loss, blindness, deafness, fusion of skin over mouth, ears, and eyes. And same thing, except that one gained muteness. And same thing. Testing to examine 980's effect on humans is suspended until further notice. So I guess it's the fact that subjects 27, 28, and 29 didn't die, and they just seem to be turning into new versions of 980, except that 980 doesn't seem to be mute. 980 can talk, and it is very concerned about the fact that 7 is like, hey, let me hug you, and it's like, please get away from me. So yeah, next up after that is going to be the Director's Cut, Chicago Loop, The Birthday Monkey, A Public Restroom, and Lost Luggage Claim. Okie dokie, so the Director's Cut, it's safe, possible Euclid awaiting further testing. Having shown no signs of its influence spreading further than the recorded distance, as long as 2 remains within 1, it is required only to be stored in a standard artifact room in a locked copper box of at least 1 centimeter thickness. Access to the SCP is by application for level 3 and above only. If I keep hesitating, it's because the little red light on my microphone is flickering, and the last time I had that problem, it was making my computer shut down completely, so I'm just hoping that doesn't happen. If 2 is to be removed from its canister, it must be in a room of at least 4 by 4 meters containing no physical media of any kind, and care must be taken during transport to ensure rooms adjacent, above, and below are also cleared. Any memory sticks carried by Foundation personnel should also be removed before entering the room as a precaution. Any media found to contain evidence of potentially Keter-class SCPs must be quarantined at once. Description. SCP-981 comprises of 2 parts. 1 is a steel film container dating from the late 1920s with signs of damage concomitant? I've never seen that word before, with its apparent age. It is labeled in Spanish as having been copied by the Buenos Aires Cinematographic Laboratory with the handwritten title 236 Metropolis. Other writing on the label is too worn to read, but appears to be a name and a short note in a different handwriting. Inside the canister is 2, a reel spooled with Kodak panchromatic nitrate film, on which it is a 16mm reduction negative of the 1927 Fritz Lang film Metropolis. The film and the canister it was found in show no sign of unusual markings or indications that they are anything other than a mass-produced stock for distribution to cinemas in the late 1920s. When both components of 981 are placed in proximity to another audiovisual storage medium containing a feature film, the data held on the secondary medium shows alterations not in accordance with any previously known form of the film. Qualitative testing showed that any time spent within 1.93 meters of the canister is required for the effects to show on the test media. When the film is removed from the canister, neither component produces the anomaly. Tests on abstract or animated films featuring no live-action actors is proved to have no effect. The canister was seized from the museum by 2 agents of the Foundation posing as officers of GSG-9, stating that the film's contents were evidence. It was secured in its current state and carefully examined by comparing it to the 2010 Restoration Edition. The film's ending featured an extra scene approximately 40 seconds long, which was cut between the robot with Maria being burned at the stake and the final cathedral scene. It features Frolic's character Frieder walking through an alleyway and finding the end walled off with a white wooden door. He experiences some surprise at the exit being blocked, but opens the door and walks through. Then follows a text plate reading, "My lord, I'm near the cathedral!" and the film then continues as normal. The door shows similar properties to SCP-249. Both elements of the SCP were discovered on blankety blank blank by a Foundation employee at the Kinemathek Film Museum in Berlin during an unofficial visit following a meeting with the museum's owners regarding the purchase of storage equipment. During a conversation with the curator regarding storage techniques, it became apparent that the print was found in close proximity to the original site of the blank incident in blank. The curator described it as having been found on a shelf in the basement of a building previously used as a youth hostel, resting on top of a copy of the 1931 film The Bad Sister. This had not been retained by the museum as it was believed to be a modern hoax, as Betty Davis's character was seen in the final reel of the film to violently assault the character played by Sidney Fox at knife point. Taken from interview A1 with Agent Blank. What did they do with it? He said that they disposed of the last 10 minutes and used the rest for restoration practice. I asked if they still had it, but he said it had been burned. He said it wasn't worth keeping disgusting filth like that, and suggested that it had been put there by you staying at the hostel as for a prank. Did he describe what had been on the tape? He said it was the same as the original up until the point where Davis's character is normally propositioned by her sister's fiancé, and says she goes through a desk drawer until she finds a piece of white rock sharpened at one end like a piece of flint, and is seen breaking into her sister's room and making hundreds of tiny cuts all over her body while smothering her with a pillow. The next shot is of an unharmed Sidney Fox leaving the room and smiling at the camera as the screen fades to the credits. Are you sure he said white? Because that description matches SCP-34. Yes, he stated it was white, so 34 is part of a set. I don't remember what SCP-34 was. It's been a long time. It's been 2 years. And some change. It's been like a month since I recorded the last piece of this episode because it's just been death heat since I did that. Further experimentation was performed under strict criteria that any media showing evidence of mimetic or visually dangerous SCPs be immediately placed under full security observation pending destruction, and that the media be viewed by a member of Disposable Dudes under observation by a level 1 guard. The content of the film will be fully described to the guard who is under orders to cease playback and or terminate the disposable viewer if it is decided is unavoidable. The picture is a frame from the 1927 film College starring Buster Keaton. Shortly after this shot, Keaton throws the bucket over the two actors, covering them in a black viscous liquid. He then breaks down weeping before data expunged. Okay. Experimental test logs. Experiment 981-1A. Media It's a Wonderful Life celluloid film now designated A. Divergence time blank blank. Instead of stating that every time a bell rings, an angel gets their wings, the character of Clarence pats Jimmy Stewart on the back and says, "It's only 8 seconds, it'll hardly hurt a bit." Instead of running back to Bedford Falls, Stewart's character enters what appears to be a Mayan pyramid, where he spends 3 minutes running from room to room until he finds a room which has a slight green hue, despite the black and white film stock. There is tiny writing all over the walls. He picks up a small rock and starts scratching out sections of the text, and with each scratch the room shakes and dust falls from the ceiling as if from a seismic event. He continues scratching as the screen fades to end credits. Okay. 1B. Media Manos the Hands of Fate, a 1966 VHS now designated B. During the denouement when the Master confronts Michael, instead of finding Michael and his family hiding in a room, they were all data expunged. The Master drops onto his knees and begins praying at an area of the room just outside the scope of the camera. Just before the screen fades to black, the area around the Master darkens as if by a negative spotlight, and he cries, "It's just as I expected!" before falling to one side, blood streaming from his eyes and nose as the film fades to credits. Experiment 1C. Media The Dark Knight 2008 DVD now designated C. The film runs blank minutes shorter due to missing scenes. The scene where Heath Ledger's Joker is hanging upside down, having been caught by Batman, runs as in the original theatrical edit, but at the end, Ledger looks directly at the camera and says, "You don't realize, do you? 2000. You haven't even started." He then pulls out a bright blue blank and a knife, runs the blade across his throat, and dips the blank in his blood. He then becomes gradually transparent and fades from view as Christian Bale's closing speech, originally used at the end of the film, leads into new credits, which lists every cast and crew member's name as "You haven't even started." Addendum. Aside from the clear danger that this SCP poses to the security of the Foundation's records, it clearly has the ability to transfer evidence of clearly undiscovered SCPs. As a research tool, its potential is great, and a qualitative system of testing must be established. The careful use of this could be of great benefit to the Foundation, but, to reiterate, any media found to contain evidence of recognized or potential mimetic or Keter-class SCPs must be quarantined at once, and no contact with other media-based SCPs should be attempted with the highest level approval. Alrighty then. Next up is, let me figure out where I was. Down here. Okay. The Chicago Loop. It's safe. Also, they have seemingly redesigned the website again since the last time I've been in here. Interesting. 982 is to be kept in a negative pressure climate controlled facility and must remain closed and bolted except during approved exploration. Is it even actually in Chicago? I guess we'll find out. A perpetual chronometer, either pronunciation probably works, is to be mounted on the wall alongside 982, counting down an interval of 26 hours and 15 minutes. It must be closed no later than 0 hours, 1 minute, 30 seconds, regardless of whether all exploration team members have emerged. Sucks to suck, I guess, if they're still in there. All exploration team members must receive dialect coaching and full spectrum vaccinations before entering 982 and undergo decontamination upon emerging. Items extracted from 982 are to be considered potential biohazards and contained as such. SCP-982 is an antique casement window recovered from a Marshall Carter and Dark auction, and originally taken from the abandoned building business offices of Blankety Blank, a 19th century patent blank's third-story office. Okay, no, I missed a line. Patent attorney in Chicago, Illinois. No matter where it is mounted, it opens onto the street outside Blank Blank's third-story office, as it was between 8:30 a.m. on Friday, March 26, 1875, and 10:45 a.m. on Saturday, March 27, 1875. This sounds like that one window from Problem Sleuth, except there's probably not monsters outside. Unless this SCP is the window from Problem Sleuth. Personnel exiting this window find themselves in what is apparently 1875 Chicago. However, at the end of a 26-hour interval, the city resets. Any external objects or personnel within the city at that time are lost. This sounds familiar outside of Problem Sleuth. The size of the area accessible via 982 is not known. Exploration teams have been able to send telegrams to Blank in England and receive responses. Exiting 1875 must be done by climbing back through 982 from the outside. Attempts to access 982 from within the offices of Blank Blank reveal only an ordinary window. Exploration teams are advised that the Chicago police in 1875 react with hostility towards the use of grappling guns and rope ladders to re-enter 982. Since all changes are eliminated at the reset, use of lethal force is fully sanctioned with no risk to the timeline. As a result of incident 982-1574, an altercation with Chicago police officers Blank and Blank, 982 has been found to be bulletproof on the 1875 side. Note, the use of 982 as a source of disposable dude personnel is deprecated due to the possibility of cross-SCP contamination. Another addendum that's not numbered. Thus far, all attempts to locate Blank Blank, either alive or dead, have failed. Other occupants of the building report last seeing Blank Blank in the afternoon of Thursday, March 25th, 1875. Beggars and street vendors report not having noticed him leave the premises. His neighbors did not see him return to his home on the evening of the 25th, nor did they see him leave his home on the morning of the 26th. His secretary reports that the last client of the day on Thursday was a peculiar unwashed man with some odd accent that sounded Polack, but is unable to provide a more detailed description. The client had arrived without an appointment or visiting card. Exploration missions which begin after 982's internal chronology has reached Friday evening report that Blank Blank does not show up for work on Friday, nor does he return to his home. I wonder who that was and why there was any point in stating it. The birthday monkey. That sounds ominous. I'm going to say probably Euclid? Nope, it's safe. I would have thought something called the birthday monkey would be terrifying. I don't know. Okay, it seems to be an ad for the bank. SCP-983 is completely safe so long as technicians handling it do so on any other day than their birthday. See, that sounds extremely ominous. Should 8983 be presented to or handled by any individual on the yearly anniversary of their birth, they should immediately follow the sing-along guidelines contained in the emergency kit 135R located next to the door on the containment chamber. In the event that the targeted individual fails to meet sing-along requirements, their remains are to be disposed of through standard methods. In the event the targeted individual meets the sing-along requirements, the following pieces of data are to be collected: age, color of candy collected, singing accuracy obtained by the best judgment of those present, and the number of verses that pass before acknowledgement by 983. No candy obtained is to be consumed by any staff without senior staff approved containment procedures in place and written waivers filed and stamped by the consumer. This requirement is waived in the case of disposable dudes testing it. SCP-983 is a vintage mechanical monkey with a faded date located on the bottom of the left foot. placing its manufacture at some point in the 1940s by an unknown person or company. The monkey is dressed in the remains of what used to be a popular vest designed for circus ringmasters. In the monkey's left hand, there is a slightly tarnished brass bell. In the right hand, the monkey holds a small brass striking rod. The monkey is capable of emitting speech and sound, although examination of the object has revealed no seams, screws, or openings that would indicate a method of disassembly. 983 is completely harmless and inert under most circumstances and may be handled without special precautions, so long as the handler is not experiencing the 24-hour period considered the anniversary of their birth. What about time zones? Once 983 physically comes into contact with an individual on their birthday, it will spring to life and do a single backflip before raising its bell and singing a simple song. A ring-a-ding-ding-ding, it's your birthday! The single verse will be followed by the monkey striking its bell, producing a tone that varies in pitch from quite high to rather low. The singing was found to vary slightly in pitch as well, but maintained a very excited and happy tone. 983 will sing this song once every 3 to 4 seconds, pausing only to ring its bell until the new owner has died or met the sing-along requirements, which as of yet are not completely understood, but are believed to be based in timing the sing-along properly with 983. Each verse sung by 983 appears to age the owner of the item by what is estimated at 1 year. By singing along with 983, the owner may deactivate the monkey, which once done successfully, results in a triumphant declaration of birthday from 983, at which time it will ring its bell once and produce a single gumdrop style candy from the bell. The approach of singing along with 983 has a direct impact on the color of the candy and the side effects of its consumption. Test groups instructed to follow document 135R to the letter have verified that a perfect sing-along results in the production of a crystal clear candy with mildly luminescent qualities. A near-perfect sing-along produces the same candy minus the luminescence. Both of these candy types have been verified as restoring any age lost by the consumer during the song. However, the luminescent candy may also grant additional time and youth, though as of yet this theory is unproven due to the low production rate of this candy. Due to the inconsistencies in attitude, tone, behavior, and approach when trying to match the monkey's song, a wide variety of candies have been produced. Under absolutely no circumstances are black candies allowed to be consumed, although other colors may be consumed pending prior approval and containment arrangements. Are we going to find out what the black candies do? I assume they just age you to dust. That sounds like something an ominous singing monkey with a bell would do to you if it has the ability to age and de-age you. Why not have the black candies just make you gone? Straight up Thanos in person. Let's see. The initial activation of 983 was in a highly uncontrolled environment, so a retelling is the best record available of the incident. Subsequent tests of interest in more controlled environments have been attached to this document, as well as candy effects for those experiments. Oh, sorry. First activation. 983 was purchased from a local flea market intended as a gift for a monkey admirer as a joke. The seller of the monkey warned the purchaser that it was to be seen and never touched by anyone on the day of their birth, but was unable to give the exact reasons why, stating it was a warning passed to them that was well observed and may have been gypsy legend or some other bull blank. Upon the birthday of 983's intended owner, the gift was unwrapped and the monkey handled, at which point it sprang into song! Staff attending the birthday party of their coworker were amused, as was the recipient at first. However, witnesses state the recipient became more and more agitated the longer the monkey sang. After 10 estimated verses, the recipient tried to find a way to turn the device off to no avail. Attendees state that at this time, several persons noticed a streak of silver within the recipient's hair. Following an estimated 8 to 10 more verses from 983, the gray was quite pronounced, as were signs of wrinkling or stress on the recipient's face. So let's see. 10 verses. So they had aged 28 years so far. Within 5 more verses, the recipient returned the monkey to rest and complained of not having the strength to deal with his nonsense, pleading for someone to turn it off. With 983 not being fully realized as a potentially dangerous object, there was panic and sloth in the reactions of the attending staff, which led to it being able to complete what can only be estimated at 30 or perhaps 40 more verses before a containment crew could arrive at the party locale. By this point, the recipient had long since expired due to aging, leaving only a skeletal frame remaining in his chair with the skin clinging to it. With confusion on how to approach 983 safely, it was allowed to sing for roughly another minute before it ceased of its own accord, at which point nothing remained of the original recipient other than his purely skeletal remains. 983's final verse consisted of the single word, "Birthday!" which it announced joyously before doing a single backflip and ringing its bell once. From the bell fell a single candy resembling a gumdrop, pure black in color. This candy was never consumed and was described as being moderately entrancing, drawing a person's gaze into it until an outside source distracted them. With a number of individuals at the scene and the general chaos involving the incident, no single person was able to become too focused on the candy, and it was safely contained. Yeah, there's no telling what that thing would have done. If they had already died to get the candy, who knows what the candy does. During test number 32 regarding the SCP, one test subject, Blankety Blank, volunteered for testing as her birthday had approached and she had displayed qualities unique in comparison to previous test subjects, specifically an exceptionally upbeat and excited approach to her birthday. Blank is referred to as the subject for the remainder of the test. Without explanation as to what to expect, the subject was given 983 as a rat present with the prior warning that the object sings and it would make for a great birthday video if she were to sing along with it. The subject displayed glee and acceptance of 983 as a suitable gift when it was unwrapped and required no guidance in singing along with the object as it began. The subject went above and beyond the singing requirements, missing only the first verse to get the words and picking up immediately at the second, then continuing for a total of 45 verses for a total of 46 completed. During the singing process, the subject displayed the expected aging process with each verse that passed, but displayed no loss of energy or enthusiasm in continuing the songs till their end. The subject remained completely unaware of her body's physical state throughout the experiment. Upon completion of the final verse, 983 announced the finale as expected, with stating, "Birthday!" loudly and performing a single backflip, followed by a ringing of its bell. The candy produced from the bell was recorded as being a vibrant white color with vaguely luminescent properties. The subject noted it was the most beautiful confectionery that had ever been seen, and observer staff also noted admiration for the gumdrop. In keeping with the control of the experiment, the subject was allowed to consume the candy. Upon finishing the candy and following a 1-hour period of monitoring, there was no indication that any side effect occurred from consumption. With the experiment about to be declared finished, the subject asked to leave and was excused from the testing area, at which point she exploded with blinding light that damaged the camera monitoring the experiment and left all attendees blind for 5 minutes following that burst. Assisting personnel who rushed to the scene described a faint, lingering light that remained for at least 2 minutes in the place where the subject stood before it faded out. The subject has not been located since this experiment, and unusually high electromagnetic activity has been noted within the area that was used for testing. Replacement of light fixtures within this area has also risen approximately 70% from the norm throughout other areas of the facility. However, no decrease in lighting has been reported in any area other than this anomaly. Any area affected by this anomaly. Okay, so I was under the impression that eating the luminous candy would age them back to the right way they're supposed to be. Instead, this person sang all the verses, aged 46 years, ate the candy, and exploded into light. I don't know if this means they ascended to another plane, because it sounds like they just caught in the electric wires of the Foundation, I don't know, a public restroom. Safe impetus. What does that mean? The facility where 984 is located, here by Site 48, is currently under the auspices of Blank Company, a Foundation shell corporation. I'm going to go ahead and assume that the company its name is SCP something, because that's what they do. Because the Foundation has no originality at all, The door in 984 is to remain externally locked at all times except during experimentation, as are all stalls in 984. Only disposable dudes may enter this bathroom without protective armor and a firearm. Okay. No less than 3 level 0 medical personnel are to be stationed at Site 48 at all times. Should it become activated for any reason, these personnel must be called to SCP-984 to provide medical attention to any persons exiting. Description: it's a restroom located and redacted. Upon recovery, 3 light bulbs were found smashed. Under normal circumstances, it is only unusual in that it has been partially soundproofed with commercially available materials. 984 will only display overtly anomalous properties under the following conditions. No persons are in any open areas. Exactly 1 stall is occupied by exactly 1 person. The door to said stall must be closed and locked. At least 1 light fixture in 984 is non-functional or off. Should the above conditions be met at any time, 1 or more instances of 1 will materialize inside 984 once a person exits a stall. Specimens of 1 tend to be large, highly aggressive mammals of varying species. Specimens have included wolves, whatever Alcis is, and polar bears, and in one case an instance of SCP-1000, which we will get to eventually. SCP-1000 is how this episode is going to end, Someday. I'm still aiming for some point in August. Where were we? All specimens disappear 9 minutes after manifestation. One will not willingly leave 984 for any reason and will disappear if it is forced to do so. Instances of one will display symptoms and mannerisms characteristic of mid to late stage infection of rabies. However, unlike most rabid animals, one will display marked hostility towards humans, particularly any persons who enter 984. As persons in 984 are not typically prepared to handle dangerous animals, the victims are often bitten several times before being able to properly defend themselves. In cases where at least one specimen of one is particularly large or strong, it is possible for one to kill the victim shortly after manifesting. Should the victim survive being attacked by one, they will experience significant confusion regarding the events that transpired. In some cases, victims will attribute their injuries to mundane phenomena that would not normally cause said trauma. So yeah, if you go into this bathroom and you finish taking a pee and you open the door and get smacked upside the head by a polar bear with rabies, I would imagine that would make you confused. So that brings us to lost luggage claim. Euclid pending reclassification to safe, reclassification denied, see addendum 3. We would get an ad for Pepto-Bismol right after the SCP that was a bathroom. Ain't that just the way? I don't know why they decided to make Pepto-Bismol specifically for diarrhea when their jingle is nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea. It already does that. I don't know why they needed to make something specifically for the diarrhea. Is there going to be Pepto-Heart? Anyway, SCP-985 is to be kept under video surveillance at all times. Live feed cameras are to be placed in all 3 sections of the housing, and the feeds are to be under observation by at least one Foundation employee at all times. In the event that observation fails for any period of time, on-site reserve personnel are to be activated, and the area is to be placed under lockdown until containment of 985 and any items produced by the SCP is reestablished. 985 is a large conveyor baggage claim located within Terminal Blank of the redacted International Airport. According to the construction records, 985 was installed at the same time as other baggage claims in that terminal, and reviews of maintenance reports has failed to produce any leads regarding the unusual properties exhibited by 985. While all sections are kept under observation, 985 operates indistinguishably from any other baggage claim in the terminal, and the amount of electricity drawn by the machine remains relatively constant. Should one of the 3 sections of 985, runway access, conveyor system, or terminal access, cease to be observed, the machine's electrical draw begins to fluctuate rapidly, though no correlation has been determined between these fluctuations and the machine's other effects. At this point, various items of luggage will begin to enter the observed portion of the machine, said items having no apparent point of entry. These items are of varying shape and size, and in some cases do not correspond to modern security requirements for luggage taken aboard airplanes. Said items will continue along the conveyor along with the original contents of the conveyor until they were either taken from the line or re-enter an unobserved section, at which point they disappear from the line and are no longer to be found. Items of luggage produced by 985, hereby collectively designated 1, appear to exhibit mild inhibitory effects on certain areas of the human brain. This results in a general inability to distinguish one luggage from normal baggage of similar appearance, resulting in one items being mistaken by airline passengers for their own belongings and withdrawn mistakenly. The effect persists upon the luggage being opened, often resulting in accidental injuries to the recipients when they attempt to make use of the contents. 985 was brought to the Foundation's attention following the events of blank 19-something, when a piece of one luggage was retrieved by a businessman whose connecting flight was delayed. Upon the luggage being passed through security again before boarding the connecting flight, the presence of data expunged and electrical components as well as high levels of gamma radiation resulted in the airport being placed into lockdown and the man being detained for questioning. Foundation agents were called to the site following the discovery of the original luggage in the unclaimed baggage area, as well as luggage belonging to several other passengers, all of whom, when contacted, were discovered to have also mistakenly acquired one luggage. List of notable contents of one luggage: assorted scrap metal, several sets of clothing of various styles composed of an unknown metallic fiber. On being worn, the fiber scrapes against the skin of the wearer, typically causing numerous shallow cuts on the skin and heavy blood loss. One United States Army issue M16 assault rifle fully disassembled, one plastic water bottle containing highly compressed air, estimated pressure 400 whatever that means. Models that suggest that any attempt to open a bottle will result in massive injury to the would-be consumer via the resulting pressure release. One steel crowbar, One bottle of shampoo identified by the label as redacted brand, said brand ceased production during the late 1990s. The gel contained in the bottle includes a variety of enzymes which are capable of denaturing the proteins in human hair. 37 knives of assorted make and model, redacted, see Addendum 3. So let's see, Addendum 2, results of Test A, areas under observation, runway access and terminal access. Test protocols, researchers attempt to feed a wireless camera concealed inside of one along the runway portion of the conveyor into the unobserved middle section. Test results, camera ceased transmitting upon entering the unobserved portion. Pieces of the camera were later found inside of a one taken from the terminal section of the conveyor, the device having apparently been destroyed via extreme blunt force. No data could be recovered from the camera's internal memory. Results of Test B. Areas under observation, conveyor system, and terminal access. Test protocols. Researchers fed a camera connected via 100 meters of high tensile cable to an on-site display from the conveyor system through terminal access and back out to the unobserved runway access. The runway haven't been cleared in advance of the test. Test results. Camera successfully looped around the terminal section and back into the conveyor area. As it approached the exit to the runway access area, however, the feed from the camera was noted as becoming fuzzy and suffering loss of detail. Upon exiting the observed areas, the feed abruptly cut out, but the cord remained intact and continued to unreel. After approximately 5 minutes, the cable reached its maximum extent, simultaneous with the introduction of an instance of 1 to the conveyor system. The instance was opened by researchers. Survivors reported sounds from the inside of the case as their reason for foregoing typical precautions, releasing data expunge, which caused substantial damage to the conveyor system and the deaths of 2 on-site personnel. Despite the scale of the event, 985 itself was undamaged and the remains of the data expunge were unable to be recovered. Local media outlets reported a tragic mechanical failure as the source of the destruction. Plans for reclassification to safe has been scrapped. Further investigation is pending. So, next up is going to be Faulkner's last manuscript, followed by Gruesome Gallery, Unopenable Chest, Self-Defense Sugar, and Dream Man. I'm gonna go ahead and assume this isn't Faulkner from Pokemon. It's probably some other Faulkner. I mean, at least it's not all ads for pepperonis anymore. SCP-986 is safe for one, and is currently stored in the anomalous document repository at Site 11. The contents of 986 are to be examined for changes by research staff on a weekly basis. Any changes to the contents of 986 are to be recorded by staff after notifying the research director. A list of 986 messages and narratives can be accessed with the permission of the research director. Preference for staff assignment to 986 is to be granted to personnel with an educational background in literary criticism and/or cryptography. Description: SCP-986 is an unpublished manuscript entitled The Absent Willows, likely written by American novelist William Faulkner. See? Different Faulkner than Pokemon 1. The manuscript consists of 1,208 bound pages, containing an original work of fiction and a supplementary section. No references to it were made by Faulkner in any of his personal correspondence, nor has it been cited by literary scholars as being among possible unpublished works by the author. At irregular intervals, typewritten text will manifest via unknown means in the 850-page supplemental section of 986. So how much of it is actually the book? Not much, it looks like. While the text of The Absent Willows is written in type consistent with the Underwood standard portable typewriter used throughout Faulkner's life, text appearing in the supplemental section does not match any known standard typeface. The content of the text appearing in 986 invariably consists of a repeating 6-character format that, upon initial viewing, does not appear to have any understandable content, e.g. these things. It looks like a PlayStation currency code. This text currently fills 58% of the supplemental section, with the rest comprised of blank paper. 986 came to the attention of the Foundation in 1964, after a representative from Random House entrusted with examination of Faulkner's papers, attempted to sell it to a literary auction house in Luxembourg. Initial analysis upon the recovery determined that the anomalous text manifested in 986 was a series of encrypted messages. Cryptanalysis soon recognized the pattern of encryption as a book cipher, but lacked the key. In 1972, with the use of computer-aided mathematical analysis models, Site 11 Cryptanalysis Office identified a passage in the 1942 first edition of Go Down Moses as the key to the cipher. Messages appearing in 986 have subsequently been decoded and transcribed. Research Log 1, Contents of 986. Pages 1 to 358, a novel entitled The Absent Willows, set primarily in rural Mississippi and taking place at 3 distinct time periods: the American Civil War, the 1910s, and the 1950s. The novel deals primarily with the experiences of members of the African-American Wilfer family at the Jesperson Plantation in the fictional town of Muskogee, Mississippi. Unlike many previous Faulkner novels, this work is not set in Yoknapatawpha County, nor does it utilize any characters from his established canon. Synopsis. Part 1 of the novel relates to the story of Sonny Wilfer, a slave of the Jesperson family entrusted to oversee the domestic servants of the plantation manor. During the extended absence of Colonel Alphonse Jesperson due to the American Civil War and the presence of Union troops in the surrounding countryside, Sonny assumes control of the plantation and its dwindling resources. A revolt against his custodianship by both black and white field hands eventually forces Sonny to acknowledge his paternity of Thomas Sutter, a mixed-race stable boy assumed to be Colonel Jefferson's bastard offspring. Part 2 was a first-person narrative told by Slumber Wilfer, an elderly African-American man in the present day, the 1960s by the book's chronology. Slumber, later revealed to be Thomas Sutter's grandson, relates the tale of a boyhood encounter with a traveling preacher in the woods outside of Muskogee, Mississippi. Following a cryptic exhortation from the deaf preacher to look between the trees, Slumber embarks on a journey deep into the forest. After an attack by a wild boar that cost Slumber his right index finger, he passes out from blood loss, only to awaken in a clearing far from the forest's interior. He is told by a hallucinatory figure that he has found his father's final resting place. Part 3 is a poetic transcription of a vision experienced by Tyrus Murdy, Slumber's nephew. Tyrus, living in New Orleans as a dock worker, receives a letter from a person claiming to be his teenage daughter. Upon reading it, Tyrus retreats to his rented room in a Ninth Ward shotgun house and falls into an extended reverie. Laden with metaphorical imagery and narrative that at times appears to directly address the reader, the concluding portion of The Absent Willows focuses on a woman known only as Hecba and her various interludes in Tyrus's life. The novel ends with Tyrus recollecting his drowning of a female infant by a reed-filled riverbank, an event that may or may not be metaphorical within the narrative. No anomalous properties observed. Literary analysis confirms that the thematic choices and settings do not conform to any previous works. However, word choice, style, syntax, and narrative focus all indicate Faulkner almost certainly being the author of this book. Pages 9... I keep reading out of order. Pages 359 to 491. Summary. This section consists of decoded messages appearing immediately after The Absent Willows. The messages form an untitled narrative that is apparently a retelling of a passage from Part 2 of the novel. Synopsis. An unspecified Native American female enters a clearing in a forest very similar to that described in Part 2 of The Absent Willows. She recalls the history of her father's tribe in the region, and in particular the slaughter of a European hunting party days before her birth. After entreating unnamed spirits to watch over her family, she conducts burial rites for her stillborn son. Notes. This narrative was decoded from text that appeared spontaneously in 986 during a period ending in 1968. During the early portions of the text existing prior to Foundation recovery, the starting date of this portion of the 986 transmissions is unknown. 492 to 656. These pages are an apparent autobiography of William Faulkner. Note that Faulkner did not publish an autobiography during his lifetime. A narrator, presumably William Faulkner, though at no point does the narrator identify themselves by name, provides an account of the events of their life as a distinguished writer in the American South. The first 3 chapters of this narrative match known information about the early life of Faulkner. However, beginning with Chapter 4, major deviations from documented accounts of Faulkner's life emerge. These include several major events not known previously to have befallen Faulkner. A 2-year commitment in Willoughby Sanatorium in Jackson, Mississippi at the age of 14 due to an unspecified mental illness. A homosexual affair with a married professor at Yale University, a 9-month imprisonment in a German POW camp during the First World War, and a meeting with Arthur Findlay during a speaking tour in Great Britain in 1937. As the narrative continues, events depicted in the autobiography vary increasingly from established understanding of Faulkner's life. In the closing chapters of the book, the narrator skips significant periods of time without explanation of events between chapters, and events that appear to be completely unrelated to Faulkner's life, such as a stint as a water carrier in the Punjab, test flying an experimental aircraft, and being tried for murder, are related to the reader. Investigation by Foundation staff has determined that some of the events described in the narrative, such as confinement in the Willoughby Sanatorium and the meeting with Findlay, did in fact occur and were never documented by official biographers, while others, the murder trial and claims of contracting a case of malaria, have proven demonstrably false. The veracity of much of the narrative, however, is impossible to confirm or deny at this time. Willoughby Sanatorium closed in 1929. Foundation operatives have seized all patient records related to the sanatorium and demolished the former grounds in 1978. Notes: following a long period of inactivity, the coded text comprising this section of narrative began manifesting in 1975 and continued appearing until concluding in 1982. Pages 657 to 678. This portion, titled What's to be Done in accordance with the first line of text transmitted, is a dialogue between two, possibly three, nameless characters. A synopsis: two unnamed characters speak to each other for an extended period. The dialogue follows a pattern wherein the first character will posit a question or statement, followed by the phrase, "What's to be done?" The second character will offer a nonsensical solution, followed by the first character asking another question. Excerpt of 986, page 661. How would you go about convincing a friend that they need to take care of themselves too? What's to be done? Line his pockets with quarters, make all times feel like the second time. Aunt Marta wrote me a letter today. What's to be done? Wait. From page 669 onward, the second character will always answer the first character by suggesting an act of self-harm, e.g. self-mutilation, a humiliating action, or some form of suicide. A possible interpretation of this development is that the second character has been replaced by a different speaker. Notes: What's to be Done was transmitted by 986 from 1982 to 1984. It is the first example of the text transmitted by 986 that conclusively does not match Faulkner's writing style. Cryptanalysis is currently analyzing this section for evidence of additional ciphers. Pages 679 to 798. These pages represent the current narrative being transmitted by 986 and consist of an exegesis of the Book of Thomas the Contender, a non-canonical document related to the Biblical New Testament. The majority of this section at the present time consists of a reproduction of passages from the text of the Book of Thomas, followed by a lengthy commentary on each passage. The commentary offered in 986 has proven difficult to interpret, as it will often be written in poetic verse, meaningless sequences of letters resembling the original book cipher the text is decoded from, or a dialogue between characters resembling those in What's to be Done. The Book of Thomas is itself a dialogue for the most part. At page 796, the style of the section abruptly changes and is replaced with sentence fragments, usually consisting of between 1 to 3 words. As of November the 2nd, 2010, this has been the modality of 986 transmissions. Excerpt of page 796. The writer of this passage can't seem to make up his mind as to whether the lower self or the higher self is speaking. It's possibly related to an expert translation, a common problem put forth among the early Gnostic scholars. What's to be done? Put it in forth, the road will be less. Who? These eyes. No hands. Who? Flee. Flee now. Who? No idea. No. This section has been transmitting since 1998. Since November the 2nd, 2010, short bursts between 10 and 15 characters of text have manifested every 36 days. That's weird. Gruesome gallery. It's Euclid, okay. Which means they don't understand it, but it's not hurting anybody? Like, we don't know what's going on with this, but we also... Hey, it's a Wawa commercial, but we also can control it. Or whatever. 987 is currently housed at Research Site 14 in an airtight 4x12 by 3 meter concrete walled chamber encased in a Faraday cage. Continuous illumination is provided by conventional fixtures in the ceiling. Access is restricted to Level 2 personnel or disposable dues assigned by Level 3 personnel. The chamber is to be constantly monitored remotely by thermographic and standard cameras. In the event that one is not detectable by thermographic imagery, the site director and head of security are to be notified. Although it is probable that one has vacated the chamber, a containment breach alert is not to be sounded by personnel on duty unless expressly authorized by the site director or head of security. Okay. 987 is a collection of mirrors, A through M, used to say H, and an anomalous entity that is only directly detectable by thermographic scans. That sounds uncomfortable. One, commonly referred to as the curator, is an endothermic area approximately 0.5 by 0.5 by 2 meters that moves at ground level. It drains heat in a radius that varies from 1 to 2 meters. It also has demonstrated the ability to manipulate objects up to 150 kilograms in mass at a distance of up to 8 meters away. Objects manipulated at a distance of more than 2 meters are not subject to heat loss. Periodically, one dissipates and is undetectable for periods of time between 15 minutes and an hour and a half. And there has been no record of anomalous activity during these times. It has not been confirmed that one actually breaches containment. When the chamber is empty of personnel, one moves about in no discernible pattern, pausing in front of different mirrors for up to approximately 30 minutes each. The entity exhibits awareness of any personnel that enter the containment area and maintains a distance of at least 3 meters away. One has only aggressively reacted to those who have tampered with A through M in any manner other than cleaning them carefully. SCP-987-A through M are mirrors of various sizes and types. 8 of them are medicine cabinets, the others are wall-mounted mirrors of various sizes and makes, the largest of which measures approximately 1 by 1.5 meters. Style and construction details indicate that they were all manufactured between the 1940s and 90s. A through M exhibit no anomalous characteristics other than their reflections, although exhaustive testing has been hampered by one. Photographic imaging and video recording show a normal mirrored surface. When viewed directly, the surface of the mirrors do not reflect an image of the room they are currently in, but rather they show a different scene, presumably of their previous location. Edit. The original locations of C, K, and M were identified and confirms the aforementioned theory. Addendum Log 2. Or see Addendum Log 2. The reflections each show a scene of a violent death of a human subject, most commonly in the bathroom. The images are not static, but rather run as a loop lasting from 48 seconds to over 4 minutes. If viewed for 2 full cycles, the images change and the subjects become aware of the viewer as if looking through a window, often soundlessly pleading for help as the scenes unfold. The aggressors also occasionally interact with the viewer by making hostile gestures or writing on the surface of the mirror. On 5 occasions since something 1990-something, and one has dissipated and become unobservable as noted above. In each case, a new mirror has appeared among the others as it reforms. In some cases, the mirrors were collected long after the violent incident they portray, even decades later. The latest edition, 987M, appeared in blank 2010. Log 1, data redacted. Log 2, identified victims. C, male, 62 years old. Bathroom of an upscale home in California, 1968. Victim is bound and kneeling on the bathroom floor. A young Asian woman dressed in attire suitable for a prostitute at the time enters. Data expunged. Victim expires due to asphyxiation. During the 3rd cycle, the aggressor usually stops at the mirror to reapply the lipstick and places a kiss mark on the glass while looking directly at the viewer. Male, 34, hallway of home in Maine, 2000-something. Subject is standing on a ladder installing a chandelier. Subject loses balance and becomes entangled in the light fixture, pulling a length of electrical wiring from the ceiling. Subject is simultaneously electrocuted and strangled. In the 3rd cycle, the subject shows various levels of apprehension when starting the task. The incident is more gruesome in nature and usually includes the discovery of the dying subject by his wife. In this case, the mirror was observed to be missing from the home when the death was discovered. It appears at Site 14, approximately the time of the subject's demise. One had dissipated at least 15 minutes before the onset of the events depicted in K. M, female, 20 years old, bathroom of room blank in the Hotel Blank in New York City, 1978. Victim reacts in fear from aggressor out of view and attempts to run out of the room. Unidentified male in denim jacket stabs victim once in the abdomen and flees. Victim falls to the floor and quickly expires. During the 3rd cycle, victim is clearly inebriated and attempts to communicate with viewer before aggressor enters. After the stabbing, aggressor proceeds to data expunged. Note: it is very probable but not certain that the presence of A through M is a primary factor in the containment of 1. In light of this, any testing that may be disruptive to one's behavior patterns must be approved by the site director. Note: as the Faraday shielding seems ineffective and the role played by 1 in these incidents is uncertain, Dr. Blank has requested the use of technology to attempt to contain 1. It's probably not going to work. The unopenable chest. I would think it's safe because it's just a box. Okay. 988 is to be housed in a locked, unilluminated, you could just say dark, cell with no observation windows. It is to be kept in a latched state and secured with a padlock whose key is to be stored at a separate facility. No experiments of any kind are to be performed on it. 988 is an unopenable wooden chest. If it can't be opened, why does it need to be latched? Or do you mean just like the latch is down, not that it is? Okay, I was thinking locked. It is composed of oak with iron fittings and measures approximately 1.5 meters by 0.5 by 0.75. While it possesses a latch, it does not possess a lock when discovered. The latch moves freely when not settled or secured, and gentle manipulation of the lid has revealed it to move freely on its hinges. When 988 is lifted and tilted, an object can be felt to shift within. The object is seemingly irregular in shape and is estimated to have a mass of approximately 3 kilograms. Despite the lack of any apparent obstacles, 988 cannot be opened. But if it moves freely on its hinges... Okay, all attempts fail due to the intervention of external circumstances. And the 53 documented attempts at opening it directly by hand, persons have been observed to become lost on their way to its current location, suffer injury preventing them from reaching it, and in 9 cases have died spontaneously of apparently natural causes just before completing the action. The 7 documented attempts at opening 988 by a machine or other indirect mechanism have been stopped respectively by electrical shorts, mechanical jams, and in 1 case the mislabeling of a bottle of epoxy as lubricant. The unopenable property appears to extend to indirect methods of scanning the contents. All attempts at sonographic, electromagnetic, and passive imaging of emissions outside of the visual spectrum have failed due to similar circumstances. Comparison of the results of attempts to open 988 with actuarial tables have demonstrated that outcomes correspond to normal probability, with the single exception that the possibility of the object being opened has been entirely removed. The mechanism by which 988 prevents itself from being opened is currently unknown. So it's not that it's difficult to open it, it's that if you try to open it, you might die. Just from the act of being on your way to do so. Like, I think I'm gonna go open that, heart attack, thud. Okay, sure. Sledgehammers, but okay. Self-defense sugar! Maybe it's full of self-defense sugar. 989 is to be stored in locker blankety blank in Site 22 until further notice. Secure locker blankety blank is to contain an electronic scale, which is to report the current weight of the object at all times. Any change in the weight before testing and after testing that is plus minus 1 gram beyond testing, but beyond test materials removed is reported immediately, and containment breach protocol should be enacted. Level 2 clearance is required for research involving 989 with written permission from a Level 3 staff member. 989 is a compound of sucrose interlaced with a substance with a chemical formula that... I'm going to say... No, I'm not going to say because I don't know. I was going to say hydrogen, but I don't know what the XE is, and then oxygen, and then maybe calcium. I don't know the table of elements like that. The method by which this molecule was created is currently unknown, as the current principles of chemistry disagree with its composition and structure. Research is ongoing. It is within an ornate silver shaker with the logo for Marshall Carter in dark engraved on the bottom, hereafter referred to as 2. There are no visible seams in the shaker, and as such there is no way known at the moment to refill it, though testing at this point has shown no measurable change in weight of the subject, suggesting that the substance may replenish itself. This replenishing effect is only observed to occur if the object is left standing for more than 2 hours without movement. Whether this is a property of 989 or 989-2 is unknown at this time, but it is hypothesized that the interaction of the second compound with the materials of 2 create this effect. When 989 is elevated and released, it enters suspension within the air. The crystals of 989 surround whoever threw it into the air and remain there for precisely 7 minutes and 18 seconds. So, not approximate, precisely. Those are the opposite of each other. This has shown no adverse effect on the thrower so far, as 989 will not come within 2 millimeters of the thrower, even if they should walk through the cloud. If any other living beings enters the cloud, however, 989 will surround the subject and force its way into the mucous membranes of the subject, causing severe lacerations and coating the area with crystalline formations akin to what is colloquially known as rock candy. This is uniformly non-fatal, however, and leaves the subject blind, deaf, with moderate difficulty breathing, and in severe pain. Attempts to remove the crystalline growths have proven unsuccessful thus far. After exiting suspension with the air, 989 will deposit on any horizontal surfaces until thrown again, wherein it will return to being in suspension. This effect can only occur if 989 is dry, as a solution of 989 in water did not show any anomalous properties. It was recovered from the home of blank blank in redacted Wales after several missing persons cases were connected to blank blank and a possible link to Marshall Carter and Dark was confirmed. Also recovered were letter and receipt from Marshall Carter and Dark Limited for the amount of redacted. To date, no other samples have been recovered. Addendum. The following is a letter recovered from the home of blank. To Mr. Blank, we thank you for your purchase of this fine item. I hope you will find it to your liking, though I'm sure your dinner guests will certainly find it interesting. If we can be of assistance setting up any sort of soiree for you, we, of course, would be more than willing to assist. We look forward to continued business with you and trust that you've taken steps to avoid the attention of a certain group as we've advised. Sincerely, Mr. Marshall Carter and Dark. I guess he didn't take good enough care. And that brings us to the Dream Man. I was going to say I would imagine something called the Dream Man would be Keter. Currently, no containment for 990 has been devised, and that's why it's Keter. Any personnel with suggestions for the containment of 990 should report to Dr. Blank. Any and all ideas are welcome regardless of who suggests them. SCP-990 generally takes the appearance of a human male dressed in a Cold War-era business suit who appears to Foundation personnel through dreams. Thus far, no personnel have encountered 990 in the real world. If he corresponds to an actual human being, we have yet to find him. Presently, there have been no reports of 990 appearing to non-Foundation personnel. 990, I'm just saying the Dream Man. The Dream Man has been appearing to Foundation personnel since data expunged. The Dream Man's existence came to light when several agents discussed having dreams involving a similar individual. Numerous other agents reported dream sightings of an individual matching the description of the Dream Man. This phenomenon did not officially receive SP classification until the aftermath of Event 997. Event log. Agent Blank failed to report for duty at his assigned time. He was instead found at his quarters, asleep. He'd been asleep for roughly 18 hours and all subsequent attempts to wake him were unsuccessful. Subject was transported to the medical bay. After over 40 hours of sleep, subject awakened in a highly agitated state, reportedly ran through the facility yelling about the end of the world! Even after being heavily sedated, all his bodily functions remained in a dangerously accelerated state, increased heart rate, high blood pressure, etc. Subject described a man matching the regular appearance of the Dream Man. According to Dr. Blank's report, Agent described with great detail a series of events that would lead to several tactical nuclear missiles being launched into mid-Europe and Eastern Asia, ultimately resulting in the extermination of nearly 98% of the human race and the total collapse of human society. Agent claimed that the information had been outlined to him by the Dream Man while he was trapped within his dream. A global task force was dispatched to eliminate the initial threat that would begin the chain of events. They were successful and the crisis was averted. Agent, however, did not survive his ordeal and died of shock-like symptoms. Since Event 7, the Dream Man has appeared to many Foundation personnel and made similar threats. As of yet, no situation on the scale of 7s has occurred. However, the Dream Man has successfully predicted the deaths of Dr. Blank, Blank, and Blank, as well as the destruction of Watch Station Epsilon 38 and data expunged. Any threat made by the Dream Man should be reported to Foundation authorities regardless of its severity. Foundation personnel are considered free to converse with the Dream Man if he should appear to them, and are encouraged to try to obtain information from the subject regarding himself. Additionally, Dr. Blank has stated that anyone who can determine whether or not the Dream Man has a corresponding body somewhere in the world will be well rewarded. The following is an interview conducted between Dr. Blank and the Dream Man. Although the interview was not recorded until Dr. Blank awoke, his memory has historically been highly accurate and reliable. State your name. Are you trying to conduct an interview? Yes. Is that alright? Sure, I'm game. Please state your name. How about Tony? Tony? Your name is Tony. I believe a person has the right to be called whatever they want to be called. Very well, then Tony it is. Actually, I changed my mind. How about Richard? That's fine with me. Richard it is. What's the next question? Why do you threaten Foundation personnel? Threaten? Who's making threats? You've predicted a number of unfortunate events involving the Foundation, including the end of the world. And has any harm actually come of it? You murdered Agent Blank. Doctor, I believe you have the wrong impression about me. How so? I'm not the bad guy here. I wasn't aware that there was a bad guy involved. Oh, there is. Who? SCP Blank. There's no SCP with that designation, and there won't be for some time. Well, of course not. She hasn't even been born yet, much less classified by your Foundation. Is this another prediction? This is your wake-up call. At this point, Dr. Blank was awakened by his alarm clock and proceeded to transcribe the interview. That sounds super ominous! There's no telling which SCP that actually was, because that was a long entry. But, next up is going to be a syringe, Gaia's emissary, Bobble the Clown, some silver dishes, and under the couch. I believe I might know what Bobble the Clown is, because it sounds familiar from when I was going to do a SCP sidestep about the joke SCPs, but then one of the joke SCPs did something that was highly uncomfortable, and that episode never happened. So, yeah, next up is a syringe. Okay, so the syringe is safe, somehow. I mean, if it's just a syringe, I guess that would make sense that it's safe, because most of the time you gotta pick up syringes for them to do something, unless you're in the middle of the movie Saw Part 2. In that case, they just have a pit of syringes and then put you in there. Anyway, SCP-991-1 is to be kept in a sealed container at Site 19. Lots of 9s and 1s in this. 9911 may not... I'm gonna just say the syringe before I hurt myself. The syringe 2. Well, 9912 was present. Access to 1 for testing or use in interrogation/re-education, but not anymore, requires the approval of a Class 4 personnel. The syringe is a syringe. Maybe I'll just say the numbers. 1 is a syringe. While the plunger is made of steel, the barrel and needle appear to be composed of previously unknown materials. When inserted into the blood vessel of a human and drawn, 1 fills with an unknown black fluid given the designation 2. Once drawn from an individual henceforth known as the donor. The plunger of the syringe cannot be pressed unless the needle of 1 has been inserted into another human. Visual analysis of 2 has shown it to have a significantly lower viscosity than blood, but direct analysis has proven impossible due to the nature of 1. Attempts to draw 1 from a vein using a normal needle immediately after it was injected with 1 have met with failure. Apparently, 2 either disperses the instant it is injected or becomes immaterial. When injected with 2, the individual, henceforth known as the recipient, will instantly take on the thoughts, emotions, and memories at the forefront of the donor's mind during 2 extraction. The further back the plunger is drawn, i.e. the more 2 present, the more potent and permanent these ideas will be. Because it is the thoughts most prevalent in the donor's mind that determine which are transferred, some level of control can be achieved. The process is imperfect, however, as unwanted ideas usually manifest in the recipient alongside the desired ones. Whether this is an aspect of 991 or a lack of focus on the part of the donor has yet to be determined. Regardless of the cause, the thought leak caused by the syringe often results in the recipient becoming unhinged, especially if he or she receives multiple injections. They begin to possess conflicting viewpoints and ideas, and exhibit symptoms similar to those of a paranoid schizophrenic. For this reason, use of non-disposable dues as a recipient is highly discouraged. The syringe appears to actually transfer thoughts, as any idea taken from the donor no longer appears in his or her mind. Transferred memories, emotions, and even opinions seem to vanish from the donor when 1 is drawn. After repeated donations, donors often begin to exhibit symptoms consistent with Alzheimer's disease. In some cases, this will result in the loss of a fundamental faculty of the donor, such as swallowing, breathing, or blinking. In such cases, subjects are to be euthanized once all relevant data on their psychology has been taken. Use of 991 on Foundation personnel is highly discouraged, and requires the consent of both the donor and recipient, as well as the approval of 2 Class 4 personnel. The syringe has proven very useful for interrogation. Cooperative disposable dues can be used as donors for ideas of cooperation to be injected into the individual being interrogated. Conversely, since the information desired is often at the forefront of the individual's mind, the syringe can be drawn from the individual and injected into another in order to obtain the information forcibly. It is encouraged to use cooperative D-class for this as well, however, in order to prevent thought leak into Foundation personnel. The syringe was recovered from blank mental institution, which is another SCP altogether, after the Foundation received reports of doctors at the institution going insane. Upon recovery, 1 was found to be filled with 2. When injected into a disposable due, the subject began to behave in a manner consistent with dissociative identity disorder. Okie dokie. Gaia's emissary. Is this going to be something Earth-related? The Euclid archive photo of the area where 992 was recovered. Looks Earth-related. 992 is within a humanoid containment chamber located in Site-77's Euclid SCP wing. The chamber does not have any windows or natural lighting. Several potted plants are contained in the cell and tended to by personnel. 992 is permitted to request specific plants as long as they are of a benign nature. Any other requests made by 992 are to be denied. Animals may be exposed under controlled environments for testing purposes. Communication with the SCP is forbidden, and any subject who has been found to communicate with 992 will receive a full anomalous evaluation. Disposable dues are not to interact with 992 testing. SCP-992 is an elderly Australian Aboriginal male of Pitjantjatjara ethnicity, 1.2 meters tall, weighing 95 kilograms. They claim to be between 57 and 71 years old. However, in the 65 years the subject has been contained, it has not appeared to age. 992 will attempt a conversation with individuals who visit his containment chamber. These conversations typically consist of the subject describing its unsubstantiated prophetic abilities and engaging the visitor in esoteric philosophical debates. When left alone, 992 attempts to converse with various forms of flora and or fauna, and will occasionally claim to receive prophetic visions while conversing with them. These conversations will usually take place over the course of several hours, with 992 holding a one-sided conversation with the organism it is conversing with. If 992 is asked about the topic of its conversations, it will frequently allude to vague, natural events which have not yet occurred. It also maintains claims to have predicted various widely publicized natural disasters. However, these are unsubstantiated. When 992 is able to observe any weather pattern, the perception of humans viewing 992 will be changed. These humans will observe unusual and nonsensical weather, SCP-2255, and meteorological activities. This effect will persist for 10 to 30 minutes after the affected persons have ceased viewing 992, while affected subjects will be unable to refer to themselves or others by name. Observations of subjects affected by 992. Australian slang for pickup or utility vehicle. I cannot currently do an Australian accent because I've forgotten how to do so I'm just going to read it. We were sitting on the bed of the ute, shooting the breeze. It wasn't anything pressing or nothing. It's just that driving gets boring after a while. Then I see this black fella walking up the road. He doesn't have any shoes or anything on, and his feet looked all ruined. I was about to ask him if he was alright when the drop hit me. Now, mind you, this is the middle of the outback, and there weren't no clouds or nothing. So, we turned back to look at the abo, and he's pointing up. Stared at him for a sec, then I look where he's pointing. There's this white, black cloud, hard to explain, hard to picture. But try to imagine the cloud took the shadow it was casting on the ground and wrapped it around itself like a blanket. Looked like it was keeping the life inside warm. And about then's when the second drop hit and the burning started. These looked like raindrops, except they were rusty. Like someone was driving an old beat up ute trundling on top of the wrapped cloud. It looked hot, and when they hit it, burned. Not like a sudden heat burn, more like an old burn, the kind you get after walking through the desert for a lifetime. It's deep in the skin, never really goes away. Sometimes you'll forget it, think it left. As you think about it, starts with an itch, gets real bad. When you scratch it, the sun and time and oldness all comes crawling out. We skedaddled pretty quick, didn't want to stick around after all that. I don't know if he caused it or if he was warning us, but he knew. You could see it in his wrinkles and the callous patches of skin. He knew exactly what was going on. 992 was found in a small village near the Alice Springs area in central Australia. After reports of 992's effect reached agents posted in the area. Investigation of the village these reports originated from showed 992 had taken up a position as the village's leader, claiming to have godlike influence over the villagers' lives and the world around them. After demonstrating its abilities to the agents, 992 was contained. Amnestics were distributed to witnesses, and a cover story portraying 992 as a fraud was disseminated. Incident report C1, January 17, 1949. Level 1 personnel observed 992's conversation with a eucalyptus tree. When asked about the conversation, subject answered she, the eucalyptus, was very depressed and difficult to name. I was unable to fully paint the picture. Personnel noted that the eucalyptus tree expired several days later. Excerpt from interview A. Dr. Boyd, how did you become aware of it? Referring to the anomalous properties. We were burying them. Everyone who had died. I don't know what kind of voice an Aborigine would have. It had been a dead year, and losing so many names had brought hope down. They had no name anymore. They were only corpses, but I could see them. The names were there, still strung to the bodies. I reached out and touched them, and then my name was there too, and I could hear them. What happened afterwards? Someone there had a true name before this, but they changed it to me. I can see all names now and where the snippets of thread holding the world together come from. It all goes up. True name? Your true name is Redacted Boyd. Dr. Boyd had been using a pseudonym for this interview. It is unknown how 992 obtained his name. I do not know what your name was before, but now it has and always was so. I don't understand. Hold up my hands, gestures with both hands, and let the fates pull whichever way they pleased. Whether it was up in a cloud or here with the people, I am able to see it. Dr. Boyd is silent. They go up to the south sky. I help tie them all together. What do you mean? Do you ever see sunlight dancing with his brothers over a cold desert? Are you referring to the Aurora Australis? If that's what you call it, yes. I can go on to name more things I created if desired. That's alright. I think we're done here. Okay, now we're up to Bobble the Clown. Any broadcasts of SCP-993 are to be intercepted as detailed in Protocol Epsilon Beta 3 and blocked from public viewing. All intercepted broadcasts are to be recorded and stored for future viewing. Any subjects used to view 993 must be under the age of 10 and are to be dosed with a class amnesiac, after they have described the episode. Viewing of 993 must be authorized by 3 level 4 personnel. Still image from an episode of 993 Bobble's Kitchen Surprise. SCP-993 is a children's television show program entitled Bobble the Clown, which first began airing in blank 19-something. Bobble the Clown seems to have been made in the style of an educational cartoon, with the primary plot of most episodes being the titular character, Bobble the Clown, learning a new skill or activity. The program appears to have no supporting cast, and the setting of the program often changed between episodes. Bobble's anomalous properties became obvious when the program is viewed, or become obvious. Anyone watching age 10 years or older will immediately fall unconscious when the program begins, and will remain incapacitated until the end of the program, later reporting a stabbing headache immediately before blacking out. Children under the age of 10 viewing later report that it teaches and advocates activities such as cannibalism, murder, torture, data expunged. These activities appear to become ingrained in the subject's mind. Repeated exposure can result in permanent psychotic and schizophrenic symptoms. Episodes are regularly broadcast from a currently unknown source, but since blank 2000-something, all broadcasts have been successfully intercepted using Protocol Epsilon Beta 3 and blocked from public viewing. Episode log. Bobble's Kitchen Surprise. Setting of an episode is a stereotypical small American town. In the episode, Bobble the Clown appears to kidnap one of the town's citizens and takes him to his home. Once there, Bobble informs the viewer on how to prepare human flesh for consumption, then proceeds to skin, gut, and cook the citizen. Bobble in the Big City. Setting of episodes a large American city, possibly New York. In the episode, Bobble instructs viewers on methods of lighting fires undetected using resources such as mosquito coils. I don't know what the... Oh wait, aren't those the... I don't know. I was gonna say bug zappers. If that is what a bug zapper is, I didn't know they were specifically for mosquitoes. At the end of the episode, Bobble sets fire to a large building and leaves. The picture stays on this burning building, and for a further 3 minutes before the episode ends, screams are audible. Bobble's Sneaky Saturday. Setting of episode appears to be London as the Elizabeth Tower housing Big Ben is visible. In the episode, Bobble silently stalks a woman for most of the episode. When she arrives at her home, Bobble attacks and kills her with a large butcher knife. At the end of the episode, Bobble details methods of remaining unseen in crowded places. Bobble gets the truth. Prisoner of war camp, Bobble tortures a captured soldier, repeatedly asking him nonsensical questions. The soldier eventually appears to die of his wounds. Bobble then details to the viewer how to inflict painful but non-lethal injuries. Bobble hates you. Setting of episode appears to be a blank room. Bobble the Clown sits on a chair in the room, staring angrily at the viewer for a full 30 minutes of the episode. Expletive U, expletive U, expletive U. Setting of the episode appears to be Site Blank's video archive where recordings of 993 are stored. In the episode, Bobble the Clown angrily details methods of breaching containment for several SCPs. Bobble then details methods to murder researchers involved in this containment, showing detailed knowledge of their daily routines and habits. Notably, what appears to be an animated version of Dr. Blank walks past Bobble halfway through the episode. A clock on the wall shows the time as blank PM. Dr. Blank confirms that he was walking past the archive at the time. Okay, Bobble, you probably need to chill a little bit. some silver dishes. Which are... I was about to ask why they're Euclid, and then I saw the picture next to the words, and I think I understand now. The flock. Okay, the flock of silver dishes is to be contained within a remote 50 square kilometer area in northwest Washington state, with housing provided within hangars 3, 4, 6, and 8 at Site 410. All 994 individuals are to be fitted with radio transmitters broadcasting on Foundation secure channels, as well as implants tied to an invisible fence network operating out of local cell phone towers. The 994 roosting hangars are to be resupplied with food twice weekly. The standard plankton-enriched nutrient fluid is to be replaced with 25 head of cattle once per month, okay, and cleaned on an as-needed basis. 994 are allowed free range within the containment territory. Due to the special nature of the SCP, sightings by civilian population or minor breaches are to be treated as low priority. All instances requiring action are to be dealt with by a special intelligence team, NUAOSIS, Northwestern Unknown Airborne Object Investigative Society. Description: SCP-994 is a species of airborne lifeform bearing no resemblance to any known phylum of organism. 994 are generally circular with a flat ventral surface and curved dorsal side, and measuring between 3 and 50 meters in diameter, 9.84 and 164 feet respectively, when fully grown. 994 will change in shape with age. Juveniles appear as blunted triangles, adults will be saucer-shaped, and elderly will be oblong. They have no distinctive features on the dorsal side outside of a layer of short, highly reflective silver fur and the orifices of the creature's respiratory tracts. They have no visible eyes, instead sensing their surroundings through a combination of echolocation and thermal sensitivity. On the underside of the body is a circular, jawless mouth with a rasping tongue, as well as a series of white fur bioluminescent organs, or white blue. I don't know where I got fur from. The pattern of lights is unique to the individual, and the actual purpose has yet to be determined, as they produce no heat for other instances to detect. 994 are capable of flight, though the exact method is unknown. It is known that they are capable of reaching incredible speeds. The highest recorded speed of a 994 specimen was in excess of Mach 2, and several individuals have been seen making 90-degree turns in mid-flight. It's completely silent during flight, even during supersonic acceleration, outside of a soft humming exhibited by juvenile specimens. The behavior is highly social, with a complex hierarchy within the flock. Older females serve as the ruling matriarchs of the group, each one leading a smaller subdivision of a dozen or so individuals. While the flock will act as one unit, the various subflocks will display a shifting network of rivalries and alliances between them. 994 communication is carried out on an ultrasonic level. Wild 994 will generally avoid humans, fleeing if a human comes within a certain distance, usually in the range of 50 to 100 meters. However, the Foundation flock has become accustomed to human contact, allowing staff members to make physical contact. The Foundation flock is also naturalized to the containment hangars, using them as a roosting area. It should be noted that both Wild and Foundation-controlled 994 seem to enjoy flying alongside aircraft, and do so often, many times going unnoticed. There are currently 28 juveniles, 14 adults, and 5 elderly 994 within Foundation control. The current Wild population is unknown. Incident Report 994 blank C4. Blank 2000 something. First recorded account of violence by 994 due to a nearby breach of SCP blank. During the incident, SCP blank broke into Hangar 4, was promptly attacked by 5 adult 994, which were 9, 11, 19, and 20, and 21. The remainder of the flock fled the site, with the juveniles and elders flying inside as fear of the remaining adults. When SCP was subdued and recovered, inspection revealed traces of a powerful hemotoxin and tissue necrosis in areas where 994 had attached. 20 was severely injured during the incident and died of complications during surgery 4 days later. Addendum 1, September 20th, 2000 something. Dr. Blank is requested to be assigned to an alternate project due to claims that 34 was stalking him and spying on everything he does. While 34 was indeed following Dr. Blank and this behavior was deemed unusual, no hostile behavior on the part of 34 was actually recorded. The request has been denied, but Doctor has been granted minor sabbatical leave for psychological evaluation. Maybe it liked him. And that brings us to Under the Couch. I don't want to go under the couch. I definitely don't want to go under the couch now because the first couple of sentences are scratched out, and it's Euclid. It used to say 995 is to be secured in a 2 by 3 meter terrarium placed in a 4 by 4 containment room. The terrarium is to be cleaned twice a week. During cleaning, it should be placed in a substitute terrarium fit for its size. That's gone! Now it says all personnel should be sterilized before and after coming into the containment cell. 995 is to be contained in multiple terrariums with each colony separated. Currently there's 4 of them. Each terrarium is to be made to fit the number and size of 995 in this colony. It has been moved to a larger containment room which is 20 by 20 meters. Each terrarium is to be cleaned weekly. If any colony reaches the established population limit, randomly selected 995s are to be destroyed. Only level 2 personnel or higher are granted access to 995 with approval from any level 3 researcher that has been assigned to 995. Feeding of the specimens is to be done twice a week at appropriate hours. During any containment breach, the room is to be sterilized with fire. It is an organism with traits that vary between those of fungi and those of animals. The life cycle starts with it being a spore. The spore remains dormant until it finds a humid, low-light area. However, a spore has a higher probability of activating under artificial structures such as household furniture. Leather, vinyl, and polyester seem to be favored. There, the spore will grow into a soft, organic mass which feeds off organisms in the air. It will continue to grow, sprouting appendages in it. Is it a freaking dust bunny? Is this a dust bunny? A mouth will soon form along with teeth and a simple digestive tract. In its mature stage, it feeds on larger organisms such as insects and rodents. The specimen will then start generating more instances via the reproduction of spores. It has been known to reach the size of redacted in diameter. Infants have become prey along with household pets. If a large population has spawned in a small area, it will start to migrate, having the capabilities of infesting an average house by the hundreds in a few days. The first instance of 995 was discovered in Blank's furniture shop in Blank, Georgia, which closed down the previous month due to financial issues. A group of adolescents trespassed into the closed shop and discovered the partially consumed body of a homeless man, who seemed to have taken shelter in the store. Police were called in and discovered a large colony of 995 in the store, and a Foundation team was sent to investigate. The team administered Class A amnestics to the police officers involved and shipped the colony of 995 to Site Blank. Addendum. The colony has been relocated to a larger containment room since the locations of 3 new colonies have been discovered and contained. A list has been configured to catalog the current colonies and their diverse characteristics. Colony A! There's 349 of them. It's the original colony. They're grayish-blue in color, ranging from 8 centimeters to 40 centimeters in diameter during mature age. They move on 4 appendages with clawed feet and appear to have the fastest reproduction rate. B is 10 of them. They're dark green and range from 30 centimeters to blank in diameter during mature. The most aggressive and have elongated snout with extremely sharp needle-like teeth which are coated in an unknown paralyzing agent. Colony C, there's 264 of them. They're black and range from 5 to 20 centimeters. They're small and they spit acid from their eyes. All 4 of them. Colony D, there's 23 of them. They're dark red and range from 10 centimeters to blank. They are able to emit a variety of noises which vary from ringtones to a human infant's cry. It's presumed that these sounds are made to lure prey in these area where a group of them would attack. Seems to be the most advanced in behavior and intelligence. Okay, so they're dust bunny discs that bite you and spit acid and pretend to be dropped cell phones. Cool, cool. So next up is going to be broken topology, vermin suppressor, missing aircraft, the tickle monster, and then we're finally going to move on to SCP-1000, which took so much longer than I was supposed to, but life happens. Life finds a way, and in this case it finds a way to make everything slow down. Broken topology. It's Euclid. SCP-996 is to be stretched to a 1 by 1 meter square sheet. It is held in place by 4 clamps on the corners and mounted on a frame. The assembly is locked in storage under standard security. SCP-996 is a sheet of sheer gray fabric. Under no stress, it takes the shape of a circle with a 0.5 meter diameter. The fabric seems to be infinitely elastic, as it will stretch under small amounts of force and large amounts fail to rupture it. Attempts to puncture 996 result in it deforming around the puncture implement. Shear forces will cause elastic deformation, but do not tear the material. Thus, it seems to be topologically ideal. It has a thickness, volume, and mass of 0. Okay. The fabric can intersect itself. When folded, the two halves pass through one another. Microscopes show images similar to the macroscopic sheet. No additional detail is revealed. Despite an infinitely thin thickness, the material is not sharp and bends harmlessly at a touch. Experiment MKF. Procedure. M996 given to a D class, instructed to interact with the fabric as he wished. Experimented with it, quickly discovering the self-intersection property. Repeated folding, stretching, and manipulation resulted in a tangle around D's hands. Attempted to remove hands and was successful, then pulled on two edges to straighten it. 996 seems to have manifested a distorted knot in the fabric, and despite self-intersection properties, would not come undone. D-Class examined the knot but could not discern its structure. They generated 3 more knots through similar procedures. D-Class attempted to undo the knots by hand, but only succeeded in entangling the fabric once more. After much poorly understood interaction, data expunged believed to be an area of negative volume. D-Class extracted hand successfully, but claimed that it gave him a headache. Subject reached into area of negative volume and removed 996. Area reverted to normal. Footage is being studied to understand the spatial anomaly. Immediate interview. What was that incident like? Hell if I know. It's like, I think the sheet thing was round? Huh. It didn't have a shape, but it, like, opened when I folded it one way? Expletive redacted. Do you understand the knots? I think I broke it. D-Class instructed to continue interaction. Another knot was quickly generated, followed by a complex fold that joined 2 knots. Pulling on the sides revealed that a tube had formed between 2 points on the fabric, defying current understanding of topology. D-Class inserted hand into tube and became tangled again. Requested assistance. Dr. L arrived and extricated the arm. Arm ended at the wrist. Palm and fingers are absent. 996 reverted to regular shape, lacking knots. Test log addendum. D-Class terminated on schedule. After several more tests, one well-preserved hand was retrieved from the area of negative volume. DNA test confirmed that it belonged to the terminated D-Class. We still don't know how to recreate any of the impossible knots or phenomena. Further testing will be more controlled. Until then, no one is allowed to touch it. Okay. Vermin suppressor. It sounds like a pistol that shoots mice. When the page loads. Would you like to load 997? Okay, I was like, is my computer getting angry? No, it's feel fine. It's fine. It's Gucci. SCP-997 is to be stored in a standard containment locker while not in use. It looks like a lamp. Lamp! During testing procedures involving 997, it is recommended that the object be left unplugged while not actively being tested. 997 is to be tested only in a chamber that functions as a Faraday cage. Description: 997 is a device superficially resembling a lamp, but without a bulb and with a twisting wire structure in place of a shade, believed to function as an antenna. Well, have they put a bulb in it? Have they tried? It is made primarily of metal and was somewhat corroded when contained, though this does not appear to have affected its functionality. Imaging of the internal working suggests sophisticated electronics of unknown purpose. There is a switch near the top that controls whether or not the device is active. 997 is powered by a standard NEMA 5 power outlet, and so has been outfitted with an adapter for Site-19 testing chamber wall outlets. While disconnected from power or turned off, 997 exhibits no anomalous properties. When connected to a power source and turned on, it emits a field that affects every human within 250 meters. This field cannot penetrate a Faraday cage that follows the specifications given in Document 2, and seems to be at least partially psychic in nature. All persons affected by the field become unable to perceive in any way anything they would consider vermin. This effect is based on subjective judgment, so one individual may perceive something that another may not. 997 effects extend to sufficiently accurate representations of vermin. Testing results suggest that 997 only suppresses conscious awareness of vermin, inflicting symptoms akin to spatial neglect except across all senses. Consequently, though people affected by 997 do not report noticing vermin, they do respond to their presence, though they cannot explain the basis for their reaction. Such will often create fanciful excuses for their reactions and refuse to acknowledge the implausibility of these explanations. This disconnect seems to have adverse psychological effects, including paranoia, distress, and delusions. See experiment log for further information. Okay, well here it is. Disposable dude personnel 6272. Researcher Dr. Das. It looks like this is just gonna... Nope, it's not always Dr. Das. They suffer from entomophobia. Placed in a test chamber. Okay, I guess they're afraid of bugs. And containing an activated 97 and a terrarium containing a number of cockroaches. Subject reported that the terrarium was empty and was then instructed to place his arm in it. Subject refused. When asked the reason for his refusal, he was unable to provide a coherent response, so he rejected the suggestion that it was because the terrarium contained insects. After being threatened with termination, D6272 with evident trepidation placed his arm on the terrarium only to immediately jerk it out, which confirmed cockroaches crawled onto it. Subject's distress continued to mount, despite reporting seeing and feeling nothing on his arm, and he was again unable to explain the reasons for his behavior. Removed from test chamber and cockroaches dislodged from arm. 997 deactivated. Okay, 75,009. They replaced the test chamber containing the activated lamp and a one-page paper about papayas, with a large portion of the text obscured by a high-quality picture of a rat. They were asked to read the paper aloud. When she reached for the portion covered by the image, she stopped and protested that she was unable to continue. When asked why, they claimed their glasses were too dirty. When it was suggested she simply remove them, she said that wouldn't matter, as the room was too dim to read anyhow. The evident falsity of this was pointed out to her, who became agitated and unable to explain why she couldn't read on, though she maintained that there was nothing wrong with her. Subject removed from the chamber and the lamp is deactivated. I guess she was afraid of rats. Oh wait, it's probably that she's not afraid of rats, but that she couldn't see the paper because the rat picture being on top of the paper. Okay, D class 436 and 15,810, Dr. Redman. 436, who shows signs of severe misanthropy, was placed in a test chamber containing an activated lamp. 15,810 was fitted with an earpiece to relay instructions and sent into the chamber. 436 did not report seeing anyone else in the chamber with him. They were instructed to trip 436, and they do so successfully. He asks why he stumbled and blames poor shoes. When questioned on this, he becomes defensive, insisting, "These things happen, okay?" 15,810 instructed to kick 436, who reports pain but expresses confusion as to its source. Then instructed to command 436 to take off his shirt. They comply, complaining to researchers that it was too hot in the testing chamber and evidently believing it to be his own idea. Subjects removed from the testing chamber and the lamp is deactivated. Level 4 clearance or higher required to view further testing logs. There's not even a link to them, so I guess there's not any. Okay, missing aircraft. Well, that happens all the time on this website. It's Euclid. An MC-130E combat Talon aircraft, similar to SCP-998. Alright. Area 998 Alpha has been established in a 20-kilometer radius around the estimated event location of 998. This area is marked as off-limits on all regional maps, and any civilian ships or aircraft attempting to enter the area must be waved off. As I wave my hand as if any of you can see me doing it. A Foundation listening ship, currently SCP-S Cerberus as of blankety-blank 2006, is stationed within 998 Alpha and tasked with monitoring local transmission for evidence of an event. Description: 998 is an MC-130E combat Talon military transport formerly assigned to the United States Air Force 8th Special Operations Squadron with tail number blank and a call sign Blackbird 19er. SCP-998 disappeared without a trace on blankety-blank 1973 during a covert operation near Data Expunged, along with 5 crew members, 3 passengers, and a classified cargo. Originally believed to have crashed under adverse weather conditions such as the Bermuda Triangle, a search for wreckage of 998 was conducted and called off 3 months later with no results. On blank 1979, an anomalous radio transmission was detected by a U.S. Navy patrol vessel near the last known location of 998. After thorough analysis of the transmission and its contents, 998 was designated and containment protocols established. Since 1973, contact has been established 11 times. Contact log. 1979. Subject USS blank U.S. Navy patrol vessel. Initial contact. Contact was made for approximately 3 minutes before a signal was lost. The sender of the signal, confirmed to be pilot blank via voice print analysis, reported that the aircraft had suffered multiple malfunctions in its navigation system and requested a position check. USS was unable to locate the source of the signal on radar, and contact was lost shortly thereafter. In 82 was the SCP-S Hydra. Anomalous artificial signal lasting 15 seconds detected from Alpha. No recognizable information. Hydra again. Anomalous signal lasting 32 seconds detected. Several words were identified in the recording, but no cohesive speech was extracted. The Artemis in 1988. Contact made lasting 93 seconds. Similar to initial contact, a strained voice was heard reporting that navigation systems were offline and requesting a position check. Signal also indicated that the craft was lost in fog. 1989. Contact made for almost 27 minutes, the longest out of any recorded event. During this time, Foundation personnel gave several instructions to the crew of the 998, and multiple Foundation search aircraft were deployed in an attempt to locate the source of the signal. Communication during this time indicated that the craft was still lost within heavy fog despite the complete absence of adverse weather in the region, and that they could not see the sun or anything that could give them a reference. Foundation assets were unable to establish visual contact with the source, and eventually contact was lost shortly after the crew of 988 indicated that they thought they saw something in the fog. 1993, the SCP as Taurus, an extremely faint signal was picked by automated recording systems and was not discovered until the tapes were later analyzed. The recording consists only of a 3-second burst of static and the word "help." 1994, the Taurus, contact made. Transmission was very clear and consisted of 19 seconds of screaming from multiple subjects before being abruptly cut off. No coherent speech was recorded, and then there were 4 more incidences of just, we don't know. We just don't know. Okay, the Tickle Monster. Probably Euclid? It's safe. I have doubts. SCP-999 is allowed to fromly this facility should it desire to, but otherwise must stay in its pen either between 8 to 9 p.m. for sleeping, or during emergency lockdowns for its own safety. Subject is not allowed out of its pen at night or off facility grounds at any time. Pen is to be kept clean and food replaced twice daily. All personnel are allowed inside the Tickle Monster's holding area, but only if they are not assigned to other tasks at the time or if they are on break. Subject is to be played with when bored and spoken to in a calm, non-threatening voice. SCP-999 appears to be a large, amorphous, gelatinous mass of translucent orange slime, weighing about 120 pounds with a consistency similar to that of peanut butter. Okay, the size and shape is easily malleable and can change shape at will, though when it rests, becomes a rounded, oblate dome of roughly 2 meters wide and 1 meter in height. The surface consists of a thin, transparent membrane similar to that of an animal cell, roughly 0.5 centimeters thick, and is highly elastic, allowing 999 to flatten portions of its body up to 2 centimeters thin. The surface is also hydrophobic, allowing the Tickle Monster to willfully absorb liquids. Although it can willfully absorb liquids. See Addendum A. The rest of its body is filled with a viscous orange substance of unknown chemical makeup, though it is capable of digesting organic materials with ease. Does it eat people? Can it eat people? Has that ever happened? Subject's temperament is best described as playful and dog-like. When approached, 999 will often react with overwhelming elation, slithering over to the nearest person and leaping upon them, hugging them with a pair of pseudopods while nuzzling the person's face with a third pseudopod, all the while emitting high-pitched gurgling and cooing noises. The surface emits a pleasing odor that differs with whomever it is interacting with. Recorded scents include chocolate, fresh laundry, bacon, roses, and Play-Doh, trademark. Simply touching the surface causes an immediate mild euphoria, which intensifies the longer one is exposed to 999, and lasts long after separation from the creature. Subject's favorite activity is tickle wrestling, often accompanied by completely enveloping a person from the neck down and tickling them until asked to stop, though it does not always immediately comply with his requests. Though injuries may occur, 999 has never been found to purposefully attempt to harm others, and will immediately back away and contract his body into a quivering mound while gurgling in a manner similar to a whimpering dog, seemingly apologizing for hurting someone on accident. While the creature will interact with anyone, it seems to have a special interest in those who are unhappy or hurt in any way. Persons suffering from crippling depression or PTSD, for example, have reported a far more positive outlook on life after multiple interactions with 999. The possibility of manufacturing antidepressants from the slime is currently being discussed. In addition to its playful behavior, 999 seems to love all animals, especially humans, refusing to eat any meat, and even risking its own life to save others, on one occasion leaping in front of a person to take a bullet fired at them. Though its intellect is still up for debate, though its behavior is infantile, it seems to understand human speech and most modern technology, including guns. The diet consists entirely of candy and sweets, with M&M's trademarked, and Necco trademarked, wafers being its favorites. Its eating methods are similar to that of an amoeba. Addendum A, reminder to all staff, 999 is not to consume caffeinated drinks of any kind. Last week someone gave it a can of cola along with its usual breakfast. Not only was it literally bouncing off the walls for half an hour, the carbonation makes 999 visibly queasy afterwards, and it refused to move or eat the rest of the day. It has thankfully recovered since, but the staff member in question has been reprimanded. Addendum B. The following is a report from an experiment in which 682 was exposed to 999 in hopes that it will curb the creature's omnicidal rage. 999 is released into 682's containment area and immediately slithers towards it. What is that? 999 moves in front of 682, jumping up and down like a dog in a dog-like manner while calling out in high-pitched squealing noise. Disgusting. 682 immediately steps on 999, completely flattening it. Observers were about to abort the experiment when 682 started talking again. What is this? I feel good. 999 can be seen crawling up from between the toes, up along its side and around its neck, where it clings on and gently begins nuzzling with its pseudopod. A wide grin slowly spreads across 682's face. Feel so happy. 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 Repeats the word happy for several minutes, laughing occasionally before escalating into non-stop laughter. As laughter continues, 682 rolls around on its back, slamming its tail upon the floor with dangerous force. Stop! No tickling! They continue the tickle fight until 682 finally wears down and appears to fall asleep with what appear to be a smile on its face. After 15 minutes with no activity, 2 D-class personnel enter the room and retrieve 999. When it is removed, 682 immediately wakes up and unleashes an undefinable wave of energy from its body, all the while laughing maniacally. All persons within the wave's range collapse into crippling fits of laughter, allowing 682 to escape and slaughter all on its path. Meanwhile, 999 quickly rescues as many persons as it can, taking them to a safe place to recover from 682's laughter wave, while agents suppress and recontain 682. Despite the tragedy that 682 had brought upon the facility, 999 has not shown any fear towards the creature and in fact has made gestures suggesting it wants to play with 682 again. 682, however, stated that feculent little unintelligible can data expunged and die. Memo from Dr. Blank. While the test was unsuccessful and ended in tragedy, that had to be the funniest thing I have ever seen. I never thought I would see the day when I would regard 682 as cute. Please send me a copy of the security tapes ASAP. And that brings us finally, to 1000. Which is Bigfoot! How did I not know that? Also, it looks like episode 201 is immediately going to get weird. But we're not going to concern ourselves with that right now. We're going to check out Bigfoot. Bigfoot is Keter? It's probably because they can't contain him. Unless he is like some sort of energy monster. Howdy there, Attack on Titan. That is so weird. Get out of here. All media reports related to Bigfoot are to be examined for potential verifiability. All organizations and individuals investigating Bigfoot's existence are to be kept under surveillance by Mobile Task Force Zeta 1000 and discredited or administered amnestics. Still from unverified amateur Patterson footage. All physical signs of Bigfoot's existence must be retrieved and kept in Foundation custody and replaced with decoy items if necessary. Alleged sightings of Bigfoot must always be investigated by MTF Zeta 1000, however trivial the claim. Absolutely no contact with wild or captive instances of Bigfoot is allowed without prior approval by Director Jones. Any interaction between Bigfoot and humans, including Foundation personnel, must be reported to Director Jones immediately. Bigfoot is a nocturnal omnivorous ape classified in the Hominid branch along with genera Pan and Homo. Adults range in size from 1.5 to 3 meters, 5 to 10 feet in height, and weigh between 90 and 270 kilograms, 200 to 600 pounds. They have gray, brown, black, red, and occasionally white fur. They possess large eyes with good vision, a pronounced brow ridge, and a sagittal crest on the forehead similar to that of the gorilla, but present in both sexes. Their intelligence is on par with that of the Pantroglodytes, the common chimpanzee. Bigfoot evolved alongside Homo sapiens, existing contemporaneously with proto-humans and humans in large numbers until 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, when an extinction event eliminated all but 1 to 5% of their population. This event was triggered by Bigfoot contracting an anomalous pseudo-disease classified SCP-1000-F1. This disease is passed on at the genetic level and affects every present-day instance of Bigfoot. The majority of Bigfoot instances are born immune to the effect. Those who were not born immune quickly die. The effect of F1 is as follows. Any hominid, including humans, chimpanzees, bonobos, and non-immune instances of Bigfoot, that directly or indirectly observe any instance of Bigfoot has a minimum 2% chance of being instantly killed through anomalous means via a permanent cessation of brain function. This percentage is cumulative, and the longer a human views Bigfoot, the higher the chance of instantaneous death increases at a rate of plus 1% per 20 minutes of viewing. This effect varies between individual members of Bigfoot species, with some individuals carrying a death chance of 90%. The effect is also produced by dead individuals, though small fur samples do not exhibit the effect. Known means of preventing this effect are small scale only and include redacted, see attached documentation level 3 clearance required. Because of Bigfoot's close relation to humanity, it is considered that likely that F1 could eventually transfer to human carriers. Any instance of Bigfoot finding its way to a major population center could constitute a blank class end of the world scenario with a minimum death toll of redacted and possible extinction of humanity. Fortunately, Bigfoot appears to instinctively avoid human contact. It is not currently feasible to exterminate Bigfoot entirely. The highest known population concentrations of Bigfoot, or I guess Big Feet, are at present located in the Pacific Northwest region of North America and the Himalayan mountain range in Asia. As a blankety blank blank, these populations remain extant. Bigfoot's presence and data expunged have also been documented within the past 5 years on every continent. All known significant populations of Big Feet located near human population centers have been eliminated. Bigfoot came to the attention of the Foundation via contact by Dr. Franz in 14-something, with the Children of the Sun, who identified themselves as outcast members of the Serpent's Hand. This group has since been completely destroyed by the Foundation due to their reluctance to surrender information about Bigfoot, SCP blank, and SCP blank, since reclassified as SCP-1000 blank and 1000 blank. Remaining members have either joined the Foundation or gone into hiding, presumably as members of the Serpent's Hand. Weapons, tools, and other unique pseudo-technological resources in possession of the organization have been classified as SCP-1001 through 1000 blank. These resources have been made use of by the Foundation in multiple instances. For a full list, see document 103534Y, level 3 clearance required. Access to the surviving ex-members of the Children of the Sun is restricted to personnel with level clearance 4 Bigfoot, unless given direct authorization for contact by Director Jones. Further information is available to personnel with clearance level 3 Bigfoot or above. Personnel with level 3 Bigfoot or above are required to read document Alpha 1596-1000. Addendum: Bigfoot 466X update to special containment procedures. As a blankety blank blank, Bigfoot special containment procedures no longer include procedure 516 Lumina, data expunged. Indicates that Bigfoot may be developing a resistance to the sonic element, data expunged, will not develop further so that procedure 516 Lumina can still be used in emergency situations. Investigation into alternate means of reliably keeping Bigfoot away from human population centers is underway. Whether Bigfoot resistance to procedure 516 Lumina was calculated and as such may be assigned to Bigfoot redacted or coincidental by chance of natural species variation is not known at this time. Okay, here's the document from Director Jones. You've probably heard the rumors before now. Everyone without the clearance level to know better wants to get their dig in. Think you hear Sasquatch is an SCP? Are we going to capture and contain Bat Boy next? Yes, SCP-1000 is Bigfoot. I'm sure you've snickered. Don't worry. Contrary to rumors, we don't actually assign you to keto duty for finding something humorous. You think Bigfoot is funny because we want you to think Bigfoot is funny. We've bankrolled Hollywood comedies and farcical documentaries, paid off men in gorilla suits, perpetrated hoaxes with bear prints and goat fur, bribed and brainwashed cartoonists to get especially silly depictions on children's television. Even the term Bigfoot comes from us, supplanted in the media in 1958, a term people find even harder to take seriously than Sasquatch. Why? We'll get to that. The information in the article that you've already read isn't entirely true. There are 2 direct lies and plenty of lies of omission. There's no such thing as the anomalous pseudodisease referred to as F1. Bigfoot does not... SCP-1000 does not possess a magical death aura. In fact, 1000 does not directly exhibit any anomalous effect whatsoever. We also lied about 1000's intelligence level. They aren't chimp level smart, they're smarter. To be precise, they're exactly as smart as us. That brings us to the lies of omission. That's what this letter is for. The lies came from me, so I figure the truth should come from me as well. This is the story we got from the Children of the Sun who defected to us. It's a story we didn't believe, refused to believe at first. As you've already read, the apes we call SCP-1000 evolved alongside us. We walked in the daytime, they walked in the nighttime, our nocturnal siblings in the shadows. But while we were still wandering hunter-gatherers, they changed. Like we would a few thousand years later. Tools, weapons, agriculture, domesticated animals, stable settlements. As humanity blinked in the Pleistocene sun, SCP-1000 population exploded across the night. They blanketed the planet in the tens of billions. They made things that we still can't comprehend, even though we've thoroughly studied the surviving pieces. Organic technology. They made trees and birds of prey grow into fast-moving ships, herds of animals that became trains, bushes that became flying vehicles. From insects and pigeons, they made things equivalent to cell phones, televisions, computers, atomic bombs. The children described vast, shining cities, stretching across glaciers and penetrating the deepest of caverns. Grown skyships of ivory and spider silk, creatures tending them with hundreds of blinking eyes. We were rare, like gorillas now. A few 100,000 left at best. We avoided their settlements just like wild animals today avoid ours. 1000 understood we were intelligent like them, but avoided us just as we avoided them. Saw us as fairies, as gnomes, ascribed us supernatural powers. Said we ate bad children while they slept in daylight. They fenced off our dwindling wild populations in conservatories, outlawed poaching, but in the underground consumed our bones as aphrodisiacs. Then their civilization fell. And we did it. By we, I don't mean the Foundation. By we, I mean humanity. The story is muddy. Supposedly a trickster forest god showed humanity favor, showed us the master's tools and how to use them. Why we did it, we don't know. Perhaps they hunted us, perhaps we were simply afraid. Perhaps it was just that they fenced us in, unintentionally or not. We simply don't know what the truth is. Somehow we acquired 1000's own technology, and with it, we instigated an SK-class dominant shift in which humanity became the dominant species on Earth. We wiped out 70% of 1000's population in a single day. The Day of Flowers, the children called it. Supposedly every flower bloomed that day while our enemies died in their sleep. Then we hunted the rest down. But we went further than just killing them. With a few of the more twisted SCP-1000 devices, we drove the survivors mad. Even those hiding beyond our reach. We trapped them in their own minds, blocking higher functions and leaving their bodies to fend for themselves like any ordinary ape. We slaughtered their living machines and burned their vast shining cities with 1000's bioweapons that reduced everything to slurry and dust that washed or blew away in the spring rain and wind. We left no traces, not even our own memory. We turned one of the weapons on ourselves, wiping out any knowledge of 1000 and the greatest civilization the planet had ever seen. Only a few humans protected themselves from the effect, kept the forbidden knowledge just in case. The rest of us went back to being hunter-gatherers, none the wiser. Which brings us to today. You're going to read all about this in the level 3 documentation, but I'll give you the short version here. 1000 are somehow regaining their forgotten intelligence and knowledge. Maybe they never truly lost it, we don't know. This is why the ever-increasing number of Bigfoot sightings is so worrying. Why the attempts at contact, however indecipherable, are even more worrying. Yes, 1000 are just like us. That's what makes them so dangerous. We wiped them from history and memory, we dissolved their civilization, and we slaughtered most of their species. Just ask yourselves, if they got the chance, what more would they do to us? Addendum D, or 56D. Instances of Bigfoot have tried to make contact with Foundation personnel on multiple occasions. Most of these attempts at contact have data expunged untranslated, though recent attempts show that some instances of Bigfoot are capable of communicating in English. Let's see. First I'm going to read the law. The following is a rough translation of recent Bigfoot attempts at communication with Foundation personnel on blank blank blank, see attached documentation. We forgive you. Given choice for now, not forever. Let us back in. So it sounds like the Bigfoot species are like, we won't destroy you all if you let us back in. If you don't let us back in, you're screwed. Okay, Addendum 104Y. Certain acquired documents contain extensive references to Bigfoot. Relevant is that the documents appear to be composed by entities associated directly with the location known as the Wanderer's Library. Context or significance of document details is not yet clarified. 276A. Numerous anomalous objects with a known connection to Bigfoot did expunge prior cyclical iterations. For example, as one example, SCP-2273 may not have a point of origin in a parallel timeline, but instead a prior iteration. 2932 and 2511 and other sources of living cultural insight into Bigfoot or variation all present consistent inconsistencies, which may be used to create a fuller picture of the nature of these iterations, though conclusions are uncertain. 276Q. Special report data expunged. This unnumbered black box anomalous item anchored beneath the structure is likely the most significant anomalous object known to have been utilized. Central to understanding Bigfoot's anomalous capabilities, including capabilities not developed directly but accessed from prior data expunged, modern-day relevance to the Foundation and to society at large in a scenario of general containment failure. The structure is SCP-2000, so it's going to be a while before we see that. I was going to check out the Wanderer's Library in a future SCP Sidestep video, and the contained documents are also the Wanderer's Library. So whenever we get around to the Wanderer's Library, we're absolutely going to learn more about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever the heck. But in the meantime, that about does it, finally, for episode 200 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. We have reached SCP-1000. I still have not found a way to play the game, which was the entire point of this series starting, but I'm still working on it. So, if you liked it, the like and subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. Thank you to everyone who's been sticking with this series for the last 2 years. It's gonna keep happening. Just gotta wait for another day where Summer is not trying to actively murder me. So, thanks again, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.